Oh, shoot.
What's up?
Welcome to the Multiverse. Hey!
Greetings, humans.
Greetings, humans. It's another Thursday night on planet Earth. Kenny's got balloons going off in the background. I don't know how he pulled that
That's
off.
pretty fantastic.
That was fancy.
That was without even trying. That was hands-free, guys.
Awesome. I want to welcome to the show for the audience, my brother, Ken. I call him Kenny, but he's here to hang out with us tonight and talk about his YouTube channel, so we'll get to that. Say
Kenneth
hi,
when
Kenny.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, Kenneth when you're in trouble. That's right.
Yeah.
Kenneth,
What's up, Multiverse? Happy to be here, guys. Thank you so much. I don't know where the that stuff keeps coming from, but hopefully it happens the whole time.
That's amazing. So that song at the beginning was a special treat for both Kenny, my brother Will, who's in the chat. I'm going to throw his comment up. It's Will's first time watching live. So hey, what's up, Will? How's the weather in Nova Scotia right now? We like to ask everyone about that. Uncle Don is the one. So let me just back it up a little bit. All right. Mike and I, Mike came over last weekend and we were going to play some video games and just kind of chill. We didn't want to do any podcast stuff. We took the whole week off of podcasting. And
welcome back. It was spring break last week.
Yep. It was spring break last week. We decided to take a week off. We did upload one video, but
of course.
And so Mike came over. We were trying to decide what video game to play, and I had the episode or Bard's Tale 1, 2, and 3 remakes on my Xbox Game Pass, and I told Mike about it, and so we fired up Bard's Tale 3 and we started a party, and I walked Mike through probably the first 6 or 7 hours of the game, and that's kind of what was the inspiration for this week's episode. So that's why Kenny's here, but we'll get to that.
That's fantastic. I love it. When he told me about that earlier, Mike, I was so thrilled that you got to lay eyes on Bard's Tale for the first time. That's awesome.
I had a blast playing it, and I had actually bought that trilogy remake on a Steam sale, I don't know, sometime in the last 3 or 4 years, and never played it, as often happens with Steam sale games. Yeah. So, and then after I played it over the weekend at Dave's place, I was like, okay, now when I go home, a few days later, I went ahead and started a file at the beginning. So
yeah, so we both started Bard's Tale 1 after he visited, and we started Bard's Tale 3. So
It's got so many old school references. I love it.
It does. But I wanted to start by saying hello to any new subscribers we've got. If you're watching, we've gotten a bunch of new subscribers in the last month. And so hello and thank you very much.
Thanks to everybody for following. Whichever platform you're tuned in on, we can be found on a bunch of different platforms. So find us on whatever your favorite one is.
Yeah, right now we're streaming live on Facebook, X, Rumble, YouTube, and Instagram. We're thinking about adding iHeartRadio and as well as iTunes possibly coming up. So look forward to that. I also want to say thank you to all the old subscribers and people who've been following the show for a while. If any of you guys are in the chat right now, say hi. Oh, hey, Mom. Mom's here.
What's up, Mom?
Yeah. And so, we've got a kind of a variety show planned today. So we're going to try to keep it on track though. But we wanted to first tell the new subscribers a little bit about our show. So why don't you go ahead and do that, Mike?
Yep. Well, normally this is a little bit of a variety show, but me and Dave are mainly into sort of nonfiction topics like science, history, technology. We sort of blend past, present, and future, current events, and we're also into just far out there stuff, anomalous phenomena. We're interested in the phenomena of consciousness itself, that type of science. So we talk about all that and more every week on our show. And in addition to that, we just like doing interviews with everybody. We want to talk to people, share their story. Anyone that has an uplifting story or an uplifting message to share with a greater audience, we're here for that.
Yep. So we do this live stream on Thursdays, which is more fun for us. We get to kind of wing it. There's no editing involved. We get to engage with you guys. Speaking of which, we got a new follower just started subscribing to us a few weeks ago named Scarlett. I think she's in California. And we did not say Spotify. We're not on there live, Scarlett, but you can find our Humans of the Multiverse interviews on Spotify, and they upload Fridays at 6. They upload on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. What's coming out tomorrow, Mike?
Drawing a blank. Michael Branch. Mr. Branch.
Yeah, that was a cool one to do. Michael Branch, just as a heads up, he was a former highway patrolman in California, as well as a former firefighter, police officer, and medic simultaneously in California. And then he was a Navy SEAL, and now he's an addictions counselor working with, who does he work with? He works with funders. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I got a notification for that one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So that's our show in a nutshell, guys. Thursdays at 6 and Fridays at 6. Thursdays is live, Fridays is not. And that's our show. And so let's get into it. I wanted to mention how to support our channel. We have a book of the month going on right now. Brittany, if you could throw the link to that in the chat. A good friend of our show, Ricardo Calvario, I always think I say that wrong, wrote this book, The Resonant Earth. He's got another one that's also available on Amazon. But if you use the link to purchase the book that Brittany's posting in the chat, you'll both support us and Ricardo. And Ricardo's been a really awesome support and sort of mentor as we started this journey. And he introduced us to a lot of really great people. So, go ahead and support him. Hey, Mom from Humboldt, Texas.
Thanks for tuning in, as always.
Yes, thank you for tuning in. 2 other ways to support the channel. You can use our link for Via hemp products that ship all across the country. You can hit the link, order anything from the store, and that's a good way to support us. Last thing is, if you just want to make a tip or a donation, because
donate direct.
Donate direct to our Buy Me a Coffee. Hey, we're not doing this for money. Mike and I have created our own budget and we've done our best working around it and stuff like that. And we're not, that's not the carrot we're chasing, is it, Mike?
We want to lay the groundwork, lay the framework for if it does take off into some full-fledged enterprise, then we're going to say, yeah, we got the bases covered. We dabbled in a little, promotional links and stuff that we're learning the ropes,
Yep. And so we'll have a new book of the month every month. So stay tuned next week. We'll announce next week's book of the month. But yeah, that's all the housekeeping we got going on. Yeah, so we occasionally we do like, you know, funny videos or joyful videos and stuff like that to kind of set off the show or change the mood up. I found this guy last night. I've decided because there's too much negativity out there, we're going to do a weekly joy segment, I call it. That's a working title, okay? But I came across this dude randomly last night. He's got this huge, I'm just going to go ahead and share screen.
He's some kind of busker or street performer is it NYC?
It's in New York, yeah, and he is a street performer. And what he does is he, let's pull him up here. I'd hate to shout out the unofficial channel, so this is not his channel. We're going to put the actual channel down below, but he is called Ari at Home, and he walks around the streets of New York. He's got this crazy beat mixing keyboard rig that he says he's an awesome rapper and singer himself. But random people come up and he creates a beat on the spot, and then people freestyle to it or they sing to it or whatever it is they do. I think some of it, to be fair, is like kind of prearranged. Like maybe they reach out to him on Instagram and say, hey, where are you going to be on Friday? And they can, hop in. But he'll walk around for 4 hours getting tips and doing this. So I'm just going to play about 3 minutes of this just because it brought me a lot of joy last night and this morning. And I just hope it brings you guys some joy too. So check out Ari at Home with Xander Goodhart. And let's go. Are we seeing that, Mike?
Yep.
Is that visible? All right, cool. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, I gotta do that. Okay, it's gonna be like that. I'll fix it.
Hey.
His setup is tremendous.
he's got a Ghostbusters pack on his back.
And the phone wristwatch.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Who needs a smartwatch when you wear your phone?
In New York City thinking about the way it should be, but it ain't, and that's
this guy's a ringer.
okay. Everything's a
he's definitely a ringer.
I'm feeling dizzy and I try to carry on this time, but it just seems to be, it ain't you and me. So don't you go away. No, go your separate ways. Ooh, don't you go your way. Go your separate ways. Ooh, 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 and I try to carry on inside, but with you on my mind, nothing feels the same this time, and so I go, and there I go.
Check out the Ghostbusters pack.
Brilliant. Genius.
Bright lights, big city. Girl, you look so pretty, goddamn. Girl, you looking so fine. Yeah, no one wanna be your man. And you know I got some problems, but we both got problems right now, and we gon' figure it all out.
So we're just gonna listen to this guy, right?
Everything is
Yeah, that's the show, though.
Yeah.
we all gonna find what we looking for. Even if one time
he does this for
we miss,
13 minutes.
life is
I'm
just
only going to
one
do about
person,
3 or 4.
so we just go
I'm
and
game
do it.
though.
So we gon' say,
I can go
screw it,
13.
drink some
Well-
red wine and just lose our minds in paradise.
Well, Ari hops on the mic towards the end, but
You and I,
It must be heavy to walk around with it.
it is.
Oh, it's perfectly balanced though with the Ghostbusters back.
I absolutely love like how you can see how they walk around. Like they'll walk around the block. They'll cross the street while they're singing sometimes.
I like that it looks like he made that in my garage. It's
Yeah.
Looking at the cars swing round right now, everything's going by. Don't know if I did drugs or I'm just losing my mind. And I like to take mushrooms about 6, 5, or 7 times. Yeah, you know we getting high, 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 high. And this could be an alien's mind. And I could be losing the time. 24/7 we stay on the grind. 24/7 I'm losing my mind. 24/7, yeah, we improv in that bass line like boom, 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 dum, dum, do do do, do 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 do, oh, 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 and dead in the night, ooh, out of my mind, ooh, losing my mind.
So I'm just kind of trailing out there. We won't do the whole thing, but
Obviously some kind of backpack, but it's hard to really see the straps.
Hey,
Is it almost
guys.
just all on his waist?
I don't want to shock you, but I sound just like that in my car.
Yeah, me too. I sound just like Axl Rose, actually. But yeah, guys, I that's all I've been literally watching. So, like, I watched it for like 3 hours last night and like 3 hours this morning. Not watching, but just as I'm piddling around, listening, and just was making me smile all day because, like, sometimes there was like like Kenny said, that guy was a ringer. He is really good. But sometimes just be some random dude, like a dude like on his like DoorDash delivery bike or something. He's like, hey, can I hop on the mic for a second? Boom, grab it, drop some bars. I think it's great. And you know what? Like, he really found a really interesting and unique way to like get his art out there. And like, I swear, if I saw him in New York, I'd follow him around for a couple hours. So
He'd be like trying to shoo you away.
yeah, I'm not going to engage with Enigma Seeker on that one, but I'm glad you joined the show, bro. But we don't just do pyramids or anything. This is our live stream. We talk about all kinds of stuff that we're interested in. So if you're not interested in music, you can tune in a little bit, bro, because I really like that. And so, yeah, that's our weekly joy session.
I applaud it. I applaud that. I appreciate a little weekly joy.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the beginning of it. We're going to get into a little bit of solar weather like we usually do. Then we're going to get into some NASA astronauts, some Egypt stuff, and then get into my brother's YouTube channel. Let's hit it.
Yep, there's been a little bit of science news in the last, 2 weeks, really. A couple developments since we took off last week that we want to keep you in tune with. First and foremost, let's check in with NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory and look at the last 48 hours imaging coming from the sun. This imaging is taken in the extreme ultraviolet range. Starting over. This is going back 2 days.
What's taking these images, Mike?
That's a good question that I am not prepared to explain all of that. Basically, these satellite imagery at different wavelengths of light. So this one's in ultraviolet.
That's amazing.
These different colors here corresponding to different wavelengths of electromagnetic energy. So we can put all those together to see what the sun is and isn't doing. And this big chunk right in front of us has been facing the Earth. It's called a coronal hole. I'll pull up a explainer on that here in a moment. Show the animation. It's been facing the Earth for a couple of days, and at present moment is starting to face away from the Earth.
Cool.
So the coronal hole produces some differences to the solar wind stream, and it takes a little while longer for those to get to Earth than just the light, right? So 2 days ago, the coronal hole faces us, and yesterday we started seeing an increase in the solar wind speed. So just a reminder, solar wind is a stream of charged particles, continuous stream of charged particles, spinning protons and electrons. And this is sort of always taking place in addition to the occasional bursts of energy that happen.
Now we got Piano and Dante hopping in here. Hello, wonderful people. Looking forward to this live stream, listening for now and packing up, moving in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Piano's been watching us. Yeah, good luck on the move. Piano's been watching for a while, so sorry, didn't mean to interrupt there, Mike.
A lot of people have been moving lately.
I think it's a springtime thing, huh?
So obviously there's not literally a hole in the sun, but what it is a cooler area where there's not as much ultraviolet radiation going out. And sometimes that wind speed actually comes in more quickly. Share this tab instead. So our last hit for solar weather is the solarham.com. We've got links to all these pages below. So Tuesday the 25th, coronal hole is facing the Earth. Yesterday afternoon, moderate geomagnetic storm conditions, coronal solar wind speed picks up, but the density actually went down a little bit. So basically this is like a really calm but steady and fast stream of wind. And one of the things we pay attention to is the magnetic components of it, whether they're in line with the Earth's magnetic field or whether they're facing a different way from that, because that's going to affect what happens on planet Earth. In this particular case with the solar wind that's coming our way, mostly aligned with the Earth, so we're not seeing a big disturbance to the Earth's magnetic field and not as much auroral activity.
Good to know.
That's the update on solar weather. We like to stay aware of all that on this channel.
Appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. And we also like to stay aware of like what's happening in our like solar system in general. I don't have an update for Eyes on the Sky or asteroids this week, but we did want to close the loop on the astronauts that we've been following, who've been stranded in space. We've been kind of reporting on that weekly.
This is one of the first things we ever talked about on the show when we did space.
For sure. What's funny though is we took a week off, and the week we took off, there was a huge quote discovery with the pyramids, as well as the astronauts came home. So I was like, man, the one week we took off. I wanted to say hi to Paul from Perceptions Today. Check out his Spotify channel. Lots of great discussions on there about the paranormal and about consciousness and all kinds of different things. And Paul's been really great to us. He's given us a lot of people and contacts that have really grown our community and enriched our show. So thank you so much, Paul, for joining. And let's do it. Let's check out. I'm going to share a link of the astronauts coming home. There was literally a 2-hour broadcast. I've put it right to where these badasses, quite frankly, are about to land. So there's 2 that were stranded, and the other 2 are just hitching a ride. They were only up there for a few weeks. So let's go. Let's see.
This is inside of the capsule.
Yep.
We can see seat rotation happening inside the capsule. Great to get those first views of our crew members. Once again, the capsules are going about 350 miles per hour when the drogues are deployed. Those drogue parachutes that we manufacture here in-house are going to slow the spacecraft down to 119 miles per hour. And that is when we will see the main parachutes deploy.
This is
and that
crazy.
occurs about 6,000 feet above the ocean's surface.
And we are expecting drogue deployment at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, so we should see it any second now. And there you are getting a great view of Crew 9 inside Dragon Freedom as it returns back to Earth. We are awaiting the drogue deploys.
Flying.
This view coming from the WB-57 high altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
Wow.
Yeah.
The crowd here very excited
Ooh-wee.
as Dragon Freedom continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
So welcome home, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams.
What was
Next
the
up,
name
we'll
of the
stand
vessel?
by for the main deployment of the
I don't
parachutes.
remember. Good question.
The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further.
Dragon
As we
spacecraft.
mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful, healthy mains.
Boom.
Now awaiting
Well, glad they made
visuals
it back
of
safely.
splashdown.
Freedom. 1,000.
We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy 1,000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be
Some of
calling
us could
out
be
the
so lucky.
altitude of the Dragon
Yeah,
capsule from here on
some
out.
people don't care
And
too
the
much
water
about
is
space
simpler and
fare
provides
and
more
space
margin
travel,
against
but
unlikely
I do,
parachute
and
issues.
to me, these people are heroes.
You can see
They're
those,
pushing the boundaries of
those parachutes
science, the
continuing
boundaries of
to
human
slow the Dragon
limitations
capsule down.
and human potential.
And if you're just
And-
joining us, you're looking at
800 meters.
a
Yeah, just the
live
9
view
months
of
they
Crew
spent in
9,
space alone
just
is enough
minutes
to
away from
study and
splashing
research
down
about.
off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splashdown 2
Yeah,
minutes from now,
and you know,
2:57 p.m.
this is I
Pacific.
think
We
an
have
innate
4 healthy
human,
mains really doing the job
condition.
there. Just
Some of
breathtaking
us,
views of a
like
calm,
there's
glass
those
white
among us
ocean
that
off
always
the
want to
coast of
know
Tallahassee,
what's
Florida.
over the next
Crew 9
hill,
just
you know?
minutes away.
Think about a small village of hunter-gatherers who I never really went too far out of the valley. There was one guy that was like, I want to know what's over there. I don't care what Grandpa said about monsters, right? And that's modern day astronauts to me.
You know, I think a few
That's
of the
exciting.
couple of the SpaceX launches that we covered. I know some of them were for Starlink satellites. I think at least one of them was a test flight for one of these rescue pods.
It was, yeah, it was. Man, it looked like they were a lot closer.
Yeah, from the angle above, you see nothing but blue. You think they're getting closer to the water.
Yeah. That's
Still
just
got a
because
ways to go.
it's because the ocean's so damn big.
Which at 16 miles an hour is still pretty swift to be landing splash landing when you think about it.
Say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Still waiting for that splash
I wonder how
landing.
fast you are going at like the moment you land after a high dive, just a standard high dive, swimming pool, Olympic swimming pool. What
Probably.
velocity you're at.
Probably pretty fast. I watched this new David Blaine series where he jumped off of a bridge in Brazil while he was on fire. And he had to do a bunch of training for that.
Sounds about right, though, right?
Sounds very David Blaine of him. Here we go.
Tremendous. Where did you watch that? What's it streaming on?
It's on the Disney network.
Oh, wow, okay.
Well,
yeah. There she goes.
So as she splashed, woo! Yeah, welcome back to planet Earth. Brittany says in high diving, divers reach speeds of approximately 60 miles per hour upon impact with the water from a height of 27 meters. Woo!
That's why you can't mess around when you're diving. You got to go in there just right.
Yep. So I'm going to cut the sound and read kind of the short description from SpaceX about what this is. So after 171 days in space, Dragon crew and Crew 9 NASA astronauts Nick Hague and Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, as well as Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Grebenkin, returned to Earth and splashed down off the coast of Florida at 5:57 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 18th. Falcon 9 launched Dragon and Crew 9 to the orbiting laboratory on Saturday, September 28th at 1:17 p.m. Eastern from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral. And they've been up there ever since. They've been... what do you want to call it? Politicizing the whole thing. Biden blamed Trump and Trump blamed Biden. But the reality is the planning and the execution of this, like, both took place before and after the transition of administrations. And, it's, typical politics, right? Like, the economy's good because of me. The economy's bad because of him. And it's like, the economy is a fluid thing. We don't talk about politics on here. I'm just saying, I don't like when this stuff gets politicized, but these guys are back to earth.
From a politics.
Good. That's the best way to do it. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing that. But I figured since we didn't close the loop on that, since we've been reporting it, then somewhere in some other dimension, those guys would still be stuck in space because Mike and Dave's Multiverse didn't close that loop. So you're welcome, Butch and Suni. And welcome back.
The trilogy is complete.
Yes.
That's some pretty rock hard science there, guys.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, so there was a big discovery in Egypt that was reported last week. Where were you when you found out about that, Mike? Like, what was your first thoughts? Like, what were you doing? Like, what did you first see?
Wednesday or Friday last week?
Yeah, Brittany sent a message. I didn't see it, and you did, but I didn't see it till the next day or something.
Yeah. And then I went right to YouTube and pulled up some videos on it. So big news from the remote sensing community. A couple of Italian scholars, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga, have released some preliminary findings. And there's actually, the release of it was interesting too. This was at a press release, but they really weren't expecting it to go viral. Somebody that was at the press release reported this on the internet, and then it sort of started to take off. But
yeah. And that's essentially the scan that they put together to. I really didn't start digging into this till early this week because it just seemed kind of nonsensical. But this is the scan, and this is their 3D model interpretation.
So that's a big leap, and let's remind.
Well, and it's based on their own personal algorithm too to analyze the data, right?
Yeah. So they interpret it through their own program, right? So therein lies like the questions, right?
Let's rewind a little bit. This data is coming from a relatively new technology called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. It's a long one. Basically, this is coming from satellite radar scans. These people were not standing on the Giza plateau and hooking up seismometers or taking measurements that way with echoes. This is coming from a satellite orbiting on Earth, way above, which adds a whole nother layer to it because obviously the Egyptian Department of Antiquities was not aware that they were working on this publication, although they've been working on it for quite some time now. And they did release a paper in 2022, also on the same topic.
Yeah,
this is a new finding.
Yeah, and this is from Bright Insight. He's got a great YouTube channel and X page. His name is Jimmy Corsetti, and he raises a few questions like, for example, it's presented from the side and the scan is done from a satellite pointing straight down, looking down. He suggests that means that this scan is AI generated. So these guys have a lot of questions to answer, and supposedly they're going to answer them in a press conference. We're going to play a little clip from the guy who, Johanna James, who's got another great YouTube channel. Their press release was in Italy, from what I learned yesterday, not here. Yeah, and it was in Italian, correct?
On Tuesday, at one point, was it on Tuesday? Yeah, I think I tuned into something on YouTube. It was in Italian. I couldn't understand it.
The scanning we're talking about here too, high frequency electromagnetic waves, right? That's subsurface scanning. So it's sort of not typical of the use of this technology, the science. So it's kind of a new twist on. It's kind of a new spin on how to use this technology.
Yeah, they found a new way to use this technology, so they're going to have to explain how they did that. And there's there's a channel I like called Ancient Architects, and he raised a few questions like, how do they know for sure that's not nature? And one of the things that he said was that, like, could they do a scan of a place where there is no pyramid complex and would it look like that? And I think that's a viable, valid question.
Sure.
They did muon scans, I think, in the 90s. Brittany, if you could look up what a muon scan is for me, that'd be great. But he questions, why don't we see these results in the muon scans? And he also says, will you compare the data with the scan pyramid projects? And those are both along the same lines, right? Like, is this repeatable by different groups, right? Is this corroborated by other technology? You know, why did we not see this in other projects and stuff like that? Like, how come these are the first guys to find this stuff? So yeah.
Now, just this raw data that we're looking at now, that I find this to be believable, but it could be a natural geologic formation, or it could be, you know, some underground structure. It's just showing that there's some vertical striation happening in that area. Like, if they scanned somewhere that's just 2 miles away from the pyramids, if they found something similar, does that tell you maybe that, okay, there's just geologic formations in this area that are vertical? We don't know all that.
Well, and the fact that it's all sitting on limestone, right? So there's gonna be wells and divots and pockets.
Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind.
This is like a really fancy interpretation of that. And with the spirals wound around the pillars, it's like, okay, you can interpret those as columns or pillars, but how do you see the little?
So you can kind of see them in the middle here, but again, like, it's a stretch for me. Yeah. But I just want you guys in the audience for a moment to consider if this was true, like if this was real, this picture, what could that possibly mean for, you know, our ancient past, our what we were capable of, like
it rewrites history.
It reminds me of an oil rig. This picture to me just looks like an oil rig with the pillars going down and then the platform up top.
I've seen that. I wonder what I've seen people make that comparison. I wonder what the specs are on an oil rig.
I picture something out of Atlantis. This is more of a Prince Namor type of thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to read like the claims that they're making. But supposedly let me see if we can see it here in the picture. So those 5 structures there that they're on top inside the pyramid, those had never been discovered before, which is weird. And they're connected by geometric pathways near the base of the pyramid, each containing 5 horizontal levels and sloped roofs. Specific dimensions for these structures were not detailed, but they look a lot like what's in the interior of the Great Pyramid. You know that thing right above the Queen's Chamber and the Great Pyramid. If you could get me a picture of that, Mike, so we could show that comparison, that would be cool. But and so also there's 8 cylindrical wells. This is where things get crazy. Approximately 33 to 39 feet in diameter, descending to a depth of 648 meters, which is like supposedly more than twice the size of the Eiffel Tower. This is crazy. So, and then at the bottom, there's 2 cubic chambers, supposedly, which I don't see in those scans at all, but each measuring 80 meters or 262 feet per side, located at the bottom of the wells. So they're even calling them wells, which to me is a stretch, forming massive structures with a volume of approximately 512,000 cubic meters. The total underground network as well, supposedly stretching approximately 2 kilometers under the Giza Plateau of underground networks and tunnels and stuff. So, yeah.
Show me a pile driver made out of copper, and I'll show you a pyramid that's a tomb.
Right. Were you able to find that for me, Mike?
I found something. I think this is what you were asking. So I was looking up something close to that, I think, as you were saying it.
I think we really would have to consider the ramifications of awakening the Balrog here, guys. You dig just a little too deeply.
Well, that's why I called my brother and was like,
"Don't do it greedily."
I said, "Did you hear did you hear they found Megatron under the Giza Plateau?" Because all I could think about was like, that's like some giant alien robot that's 10 million years old, and that's like his shoulder blade. The pyramids are like spikes coming out of his shoulder or something, and like we're gonna wake his ass up, and he's gonna start like, who disturbed my slumber, and he's gonna start kicking stuff over and whatnot. And we're, you know, I think that happened in one of the new crappy Transformers movies. So yeah. Anyway, Mike,
so this was I'm not sure if this is exactly what you had, but this is from you had asked, but this is from Filippo's 2022 paper.
Yes.
Where they focus not in the underground of the pyramid, but the internals of the pyramid, which we do know quite a bit about the internals of the pyramid. So that gave us data to compare. Here was
your
the
friend
result.
that wrote the book?
No, that is the actual guy that did the study in 2020, the first study when they were in 2020 something or whatever.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And Jeffrey Drum has a good YouTube channel called Land of Kim, where he breaks down this whole paper in depth for people like you and me, and he voices his skepticism as well, or at least, you know, he's cognizant of the imperfections here. But you can see that they were able to, you know, show evidence of the known existing chambers in the pyramid. And I'm sorry, Dave, was this in particular was
yeah, so no, that is so if you go back to the picture before that, I think no, there was the one that showed the structure in the middle of the pyramid. It was like kind of at the top in the middle. Yeah, where it says azimuth. If you can zoom in if possible. So the 5 structures, it's okay. The 5 structures, yeah, there we go. The 5 structures that they showed at the bottom that supposedly are at the base look a lot like this bad boy in the middle, correct?
Yeah.
So that's just an observation I made, and then I saw somebody else in another YouTube video make it. We're gonna play a short clip from Johanna James's YouTube channel. We met her at Cosmic Summit last year. She's got a great YouTube channel. She's funny. She takes like an interesting take on a lot of this stuff.
She tracked down the guy that leaked this press release a week ago, a little over a week ago now, I guess, is when it hit the internet. And then by Thursday or Friday, Johanna had booked the interview with this guy. Here's the article, by the way, before I stop sharing. So the 2022 article from these researchers is freely available to the public. To be honest, a bit of this is over my head. I haven't had time to read. Look at all this stuff, folks. I mean, I'll get around to reading this eventually, but it's got the full-blown methods, methodologies. I don't know.
Yeah. And Enigma Seeker, he's saying something I've heard other people say too, which is the SAR does not penetrate deep. The research team is all into ancient alien BS. Follow Matt from Ancient Aliens. And that's an issue, right? Is you come out with you know, these bold, like wild claims in a teaser form, and you can't back it up. That, you know, like then
there's a huge gap of interpretation between the raw data, which, like I said, okay, it looks like some underground echo data, I believe it, versus the spirals around 8 pillar columns with spiral staircases or something.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe they found a different way to use the technology, which is what somebody else I heard was saying, but like I can't claim to understand the science behind what he was saying. So we're really gonna have to get like a decent interpretation of their whole study.
Yeah.
Enigma Seeker also says it's just bedrock. They're trying to interpolate the background noise. This model was just made in Google SketchUp, and I think that's what.
See a scan of the wider area, and if those type of vertical things are just commonplace, then we say, okay, that's known geology or something.
Yeah, and I think that's what Jimmy Corsetti was saying too. In what I what I showed, which was that it was an AI thing, but if
the scans come out and everywhere else for miles and miles around, it's just empty. It's just packed in with sand, as we would think. And then all of a sudden there's interesting things going on under the Giza complex, then that's information we want to know too. So
yeah, then let's start digging, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's just bust out the
get a shovel.
Anyone who happens to be knowledgeable in African geology is probably come on our show, teach us about it. Yeah, cringing at us. Sorry.
For sure. Why do I keep losing that? Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna just play about, I don't know, 5 minutes of the beginning of this interview. This is the guy, again, like Mike said, who
he didn't create. He's not the researcher. He didn't create the image, but he was at the press conference and let it out on the internet.
And apparently he got permission to. So we actually had Brittany reach out to him and to try to get him on our show. And he was nice and polite and said he would eventually come on the show, but was very honest that he was getting basically blown up on all of his socials and stuff for interviews. So I think he's going to end up on the bigger channels first, but that's okay. It was nice and polite of him to respond. So let's go ahead and watch the beginning of this. I got to get the sound going.
A team of scientists from Italy have been using satellite scans, and they claim that they have evidence of underground structures and tunnel networks that are underneath the middle pyramid on the Giza plateau, including 5 never before found chambers inside the pyramid at ground level that replicate exactly the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, 8 hollow cylindrical structures descending down into the earth for over 400 meters. And not only that, these 4 hollow cylindrical structures connect to 2 square 80 meter by 80 meter chambers. And underneath that, they say that there is 2 kilometers of interconnecting tunnels under the Giza plateau that need more investigation. The abstract summary of their finding looks really interesting, really exciting, and everybody is scrambling to find out more information. I traced the source of the abstract from the conference to the Facebook page of a man called Trevor Grassi. He also has a YouTube channel. I got in contact with Trevor, and he was more than happy to help fill me in on the information that he knows so far, and just to help clarify what's going on and what we can expect in the coming weeks.
What a wild 24 hours. Has it been kicking off? Have you been getting a lot of...
Yes. Yeah, this has been a pretty crazy week so far.
This is the guy you're trying to interview?
And very excited to have a chance to talk with you about it right now, because there's a lot of things that are kind of very confused in the public space right now regarding where these documents came from, the entire copper project.
Yes.
So thanks for having me on here.
No, that's fine. I was the same. I found your Facebook post, which had the abstract from the press release, but I think people are getting a bit confused because they're looking for the press release, which, am I correct, that is the abstract kind of is the press release?
Yeah, it's the abstract describing basically what they're going to cover in the conference that just happened this past weekend in Italy. Mm-hmm. And so this is Corrado Malongo, Filippo Biondi, and Armando May are all doing this project, and they're friends of mine. I've been talking with them since last year about trying to help get this discovery out. They told me last year, get ready, Trevor, because March 15th, the world's going to see. So I've been preparing for this day, but what actually happened on the day was very surprising to me. And it turns out that I ended up being the source for this entire document coming out. It was actually like they sent me this document by email on Saturday morning, and so I woke up and saw it, and I said, "Okay, wow!" I was the first person to read it, and I imagined that this was being given to every one of the 900 plus attendees at the conference, who would all be sharing it that day. So I asked Armando May. I said, "Can I share this?" And he said, "Go for it." And I put it out, figuring 900 other people would also, but as it turned out, I was the only one. I put it on Facebook. There wasn't any official webpage of theirs that it was released on. So a lot of people are looking for the source, and it's really just my Facebook page. So I want to explain how that came about a little bit and give people an idea that this is not made up. It's not a hoax. It's not fake. We are going to get complete confirmation of everything we're seeing in these images within the week, at least. Armando told me last night within 10 days, but I think that's it should be less than that. But it will be a complete 4-hour video presentation of the entire conference, complete technical detail.
Was that the one that was in Italy that Scarlett was talking about, or what?
Yeah, so for reference, this is about a week ago. This video we're showing is probably 5 or 6 days old. I'm pretty sure on Tuesday, 2 days ago, that time, because I tuned in. I was watching some live video in Italian on Tuesday evening on YouTube for a few minutes. So I guess next step is we need to get to the translation of that and find the abstract of that.
Yeah. And so
we're following this. We're following this as it unfolds, and I didn't really look into it today, to be honest.
Yeah, there's not really anything new as far as like interpretation of the data, as far as I know. I'd like to hear what some, people familiar with that technology have to say about the findings in English, and their interpretations. But this is going to need a lot of corroborative evidence, or for lack of a better word, it's
transparency.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's going to need that
I should have
too.
checked Twitter today to see what the latest was, because people have probably hashed it out by now. If it was 48 hours ago, they got to the bottom of it yesterday.
Well, maybe that's what Peter's talking about, and I saw a little bit yesterday about people saying that about the technology, and it's not capable of doing that. But then why would you assassinate your career by making these crazy claims, right?
Anybody can be rehabilitated, it would seem.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Maybe you think Will Smith can come back or what? I don't know if anybody can.
He already is in many facets.
Yeah.
You hear more about Will Smith's Oscar than you do the slap. So it's
cool.
Kind of funny.
I just wanted to go right back. So we'll keep you guys posted on what we know about that, and we'll talk about it as stuff develops. I'm gonna go back quickly so we can see these astronauts hop out of this hatch, just because that I realized that was still playing in the background, and I was like,
that live, Dave?
No, this is from the 18th. Yeah,
yeah.
We would have reported on it last week. We just weren't in here. But they're about to burst.
Right.
So
it's your fault.
Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams are likely going to be quite have some biological adaptation issues.
It's a long process to reacclimate to Earth's gravity.
Yep.
Being up there for that long.
Yeah. There's an astronaut, I forget his name, but he's a twin, and so they did like a study on him and his twin, and like I'm not gonna bro science all the all the findings, but like it literally was like changing his changes genetic structure a little bit and stuff like that from spending too much time in space. And there was just a bunch of biological changes that made him different than his brother that they weren't expecting. Yeah. So, but they're definitely going to need assistance and immediate immediate medical attention and all that stuff.
It's all about muscle density, right? So it's been greatly compromised.
Yeah, atrophies and all that stuff. Evolution's a thing.
After that long.
Your heart, you said?
Yeah, after being in outer space for that long starts.
Yeah, even if you go on their little exercise bikes and stuff like that to combat it, and they're doing strength training and stuff like that as best they can, it doesn't matter.
Right. It's
now,
like taking a supplement.
Is it a good feeling to return to Earth and feel, upright with gravity, or feel like which way is up from down, or is it literally a drag? Do you feel weighted down? You're like, man, I was weightless. I
bet it feels really foreign. Like I bet it feels like your first time stepping on a planet. Like I just think of like times I've had a cast or a boot on my foot, and then all of a sudden I take it off and I'm like, whoa, this is like that to the extreme, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think knowing up from down feels like home. Not knowing up from down is, but maybe after for a while
you get used to it. Yeah, maybe.
Might be like going for a swim.
Yep.
So they're going to get these people out. It might take a second. Let's see if I can speed it up a little bit.
2x speed.
They gotta extract them.
It's a whole operation.
Not to make light of the process, but it did look like a moment ago they had to install the door just so they could open it.
Well, I was watching while we had the Johanna James thing going, and it was like a whole operation. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Let's watch the emergence.
Oof.
So this isn't even one of the dudes that's been up there forever. Why didn't they let Butch and Suni out first? You know what I mean?
Right. Maybe it'd be a little more complicated, their extraction.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it might need more time. Yeah.
Right, because you can just yank these guys out.
Yeah, but even these guys are like going to have, biological, adaptation issues. You can tell he's like a little whoa. I wonder. I'll look into this for you guys and report on what what they all had to go through after they got back, what kind of rehab, how much time they spent in the hospital.
Interviews before too long.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Once they're out of, they probably quarantined for a little while, and then I'm sure they'll be on the news, big news whenever.
Yep.
That's that.
All right, let's get to the next guy. Man, I think about like a road trip and how like I want to just rip off my like seatbelt and pop out of the car and go and stretch my legs.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm naive for thinking it would be as simple as we finally opened the hatch, like that master lock that was always going to just open it up and get out. Nope, they have to install stuff.
Yep. I'm gonna get to the. I don't want to spend too much time waiting for them to get these guys out, but I want to get to Butch and Suni.
So between a little ancient history and a little current science and a little, a little solar weather, that's what we like to cover the bases for on this channel.
For sure, and it's kind of a good lead into our guest segment this week. We do guest segments not every week, but typically in the realm of history and people who produce books or other YouTubers. And guess what? My brother's a YouTuber, and he goes by the name of KenFlo. Tell us about your YouTube channel. But before I do, I have a question for the audience. Are you a collector? And if so, what do you collect? Go ahead and drop it down in the chat. My brother's a lifelong collector. I've always known him to be collecting things. The first thing I ever remember him collecting was bottle caps when we were like 5.
Do you want to know why I started collecting bottle caps?
Yes, I do.
Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie were collecting bottle caps?
Yeah. Well, no. Bert specifically had a bottle cap collection, and Ernie was trying to get a specific bottle cap for him. And I was hooked from that episode on. And our poor mother had to deal with the laundry situation.
Yeah, she'd always be shaking you down.
We'd
get home, she'd be patting Kenny down. What's he got in his pockets? He'd have like bottle caps, popsicle sticks, all kinds of stuff.
Rocks especially, because you can get those rock and gemstone collector kits from the Scholastic Book Club.
Yep.
And I always wanted to get that, and Mom always would groan because she's like, well, you already have like several of those. So I'm like, no, I need a new one. More rocks.
And so since then, you've just been collecting stuff. If you want to briefly share your journey with collecting all the different things that you've collected in the past and how that led to your YouTube channel and your auction page and all that stuff, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I'm still actually paying attention to the astronauts here too, which is just kind of cool. I actually like that it's still up there. Yeah. It's fun that Don Davidson is here. He's actually, I can almost like say mastermind. He's the culprit. If I got the infectious disease known as collecting from anyone. And I say that with just love and adoration. It would be my uncle. And, we had similar tastes. And it just all started on a journey it took like 2-3 buses, a ferry, and a good bit of walking to get to Odyssey 2000. It's a hobby shop that I'm not sure if it still exists, actually. It was downtown Halifax, in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And it became, that first trip became my favorite place to go. I would make that journey on my own with friends, with my uncle, with my brothers, every day that I could, while I lived there. It was actually quite an impact on me. I can remember the sights, the sounds. I can even picture a couple of the customers that were in there at the time, and a couple of the books that to this day I would love to have in my collection up on there.
Yeah, Thank you. And I wanted to say shout out to Uncle Don, but welcome back, Suni Williams. She just got off the capsule. Our brother Will says, I collect spores, mold, and fungus. I wonder, is that in your bathroom, Will? Or are you kidding? Uncle Don says, I enjoy Kenny's unboxing of some classic comics. I remember many of them. And yeah, Brittany put Kenny's YouTube channel in the chat. So he's going to tell us about that eventually. And Uncle Don says also, sorry, Ken or Ken's wallet. I love talking to you, taking you to the comic shop. Yeah, I remember those trips too, but I wasn't super into comics. I remember they took me there once, and the comic I picked was Camp Candy. It was like Candy. Yeah, it was a John Candy cartoon that had a comic. And I remember Uncle Don going, "Oh, was it? Okay." Yep. I remember Uncle Don going, "Really? That's the one you want?" I was like, "I think so." I was like 6, and there was a cartoon I was watching. So yeah.
Absolutely, Saturday morning cartoons, no less. You know, those are actually all that stuff from the 90s or late 80s and all that junk. That's highly collectible nowadays. And that's
sure,
sort
we're
of
going to get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, no, I just always had an affinity for it. There was no Sunday shopping when we grew up as kids, right, Dave? And
yeah, not Nova Scotia.
Right. So on Sundays, they would shut down the malls, and several of them, Penhorn Mall being the iconic one from our childhood.
Which is no longer there.
No longer there. It's very sad, but I can watch videos and get all misty-eyed about it on YouTube.
Oh, and, Will says Egon said it on Ghostbusters. That's right. I collect mold, spores, and fungus. Thank you, Will. Thank you.
Bravo, Will. You know, there was a ring to that statement.
Our older brother Will is always spot on with the one-liners and from movies and stuff like that. He's always been that way.
But right. Always with the pop culture references, and yeah, I'll tell you what. When it really did kind of break my heart when I watched. I think you, Dave, sent me a link to a video about someone going on a last lonely walk through Penhorn Mall.
Yeah.
And just like I think the only thing left was I don't think GTO's was there anymore. Good time oldies. I think the movie theater was kind of there.
Yeah, Will could probably give you a whole breakdown of that because I think he was there all the way up to the end working, I believe. So. But yeah, it is a little bit sad. They become a liminal space. After things, shopping malls are classic liminal spaces.
If it's for sale, though, maybe somebody wants to buy that shopping mall and turn it into some type of museum or something.
It's been demolished. It's no longer there.
Never mind. You said that.
The museum's up here. It's all up here.
Yeah.
And I like for real, it was a background. It was a backdrop. I mean, for most of my childhood, one of my biggest achievements when I was a kid, I had this paper route, and that's how I supplemented my collecting situation as a kid. I didn't need an allowance or anything like that. And one thing I always dreamed of as a kid, and it's ironic because now I'm selling comic books and collectibles online, something we're going to get to. But I always want to know my own shop, man. I sort of idolized the shopkeepers. I really associated with the comic book guy on The Simpsons. You know what I mean? And
do you remember when we opened our own comic shop on Center Street? It was a card shop actually. So we had an aluminum shed next to the duplex. I think I was 10 and you were 11. No, it was on Center Street, so I was 10 and you were 11 likely.
10 and 11.
There was nothing in the shed at the time. I don't even know if we ever kept that shed. But either way, we set up like we found a board or something at a construction site. Kenny and I used to rob construction sites for materials a lot back in the day.
Yeah, I can't deny that at all.
Did that paper route also give you a lot of just area to recon and scout for stuff to collect while you're out there?
Oh yeah, big time. For sure. It gave me the endurance too to kind of go through a convention or go through a flea market and be on my feet. It's actually why, you know, I work on my feet to this day. So yeah, I attribute the paper route to a lot of my work ethic, and which leads right to the collecting, actually, because
it does, because Kenny would always have money for stuff, and I would always spend mine on like as soon as I got it, and then all of a sudden Kenny'd be like, come home with new stuff, or like all of a sudden have money for pizza or something. It's because he had a paper route, he worked hard, and they you know, and he saved, and he bought what he desired, you know, which is his collection.
Well, and so what was really fun, you know, to the point of the flea market would be that I did actually make that dream come true a little bit, all on my own with a couple of my buddies. We rented a table at that very flea market. We were in middle school at the time, I think like 8th grade.
I don't remember that.
And oh yeah, we gathered up our best toys, our comics, our cards, the things we were willing to part with. And Uncle Don, this one's actually for you. You helped supplement this sale for me. You had just moved and you had donated a large portion of your collection to me. And through that, I was actually able to take your better conditioned books and keep them for myself. And I was able to take the other books that I had that I now had duplicates of that I had collected, you know, with what I was able to get. And I was able to sell those books to some dealers at the flea market. And so I went from being this tiny, this twiggy little customer that would come in and try to make a deal. I was real plucky. I was, you know, it didn't seem like it, you know, when I was at school or in social situations, but man, I came alive when it came to wheeling and dealing. And so these guys were used to dealing with me as a customer, as a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old. And here they are coming up now trying to make a deal with me. And one thing I took absolute pride in was they zeroed right in on my stuff. And, you know, I love my buddies, but they walked right past my buddies' stuff and came right up to my stuff, dug through the boxes, picked out a whole mess of books. And I'll never forget, the story didn't end there with just a good sale. I noticed I was missing a book. And I went, well, this isn't good. And it was the first issue of Wolverine, his first ongoing book, you know. And it's just an iconic cover to this day. It's a book that I actually still have in my collection to this day, because it left the table. I was panicked. I said, guys, I need you to watch this book. I'm going to go chase this guy down. Now we're talking, this is a guy who's now my age. He was probably in his 40s, been dealing with comics and sales and whatnot his whole life. And now to this day, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I knew I'm like, he either accidentally or, you know, one way or the other.
Pull a fast one on it.
Yeah, thought maybe he could pull a fast one on a kid, right? So, but again, you know, something that I learned, and Dave remembers me saying this a lot. You know, I learned how to outshark the sharks by going to the flea markets, right? Finding a good deal. And you learn how to outshark the sharks by getting bit, you know? Sometimes you get taken advantage of, sometimes this and that, but as long as you're learning a lesson. And one thing I learned right then and there was I was a bulldog when it came to my possessions. And when it was something, as Dave put it, that I worked hard for, took my money, my time, and instead of spending it right away on this, that, or the other, you know, save up, get my books. And I chased this guy down, and he tried to stonewall me too. He sat behind his table and said, nope, I just bought the books that I bought. And I called him out. I said, nah, man. I said, check the bottom book of that stack, because it's a good thing I had just chased him down too. He had just placed the stack down, and he was adamant that he didn't have the book. And when he looked at the bottom, it was there. And it was a moment of vindication for me at a very young age that I'll never forget, because I stood up for myself, and I got back what was taken from me. And and this was in front of people who were now not only older than me, but were now my peers. Like I now kind of had a cock of the walk attitude going into that flea market after that. You know, like, you know, hey, get out of the way here. I got business to do. So that's definitely a story that one of many stories that I could expand upon that sort of lit the fire for collecting. It's funny because a lot of them are wrapped in what could be a web of negativity. Like, you know, it could have been a negative outcome. It could have, you know, could be viewed as like, you know, this tragic thing. Somebody was trying to take advantage of me. But instead, you know, it all led to the same positive road. Me realizing that even if I lost something, which I have along the way, Dave knows some of those stories. I could tell you some of those stories. But losing it along the way, you know, I never lost that wantonness to collect. You know, I love that Gandalf the Grey quote, "Not all who wander are lost," you know. There's just a pull. It's just like with you guys, you know, there's a pull. There's a reason you ended up at that conference, right? And not just because of the X-Files or something. It's because you know, you have a similar framework, similar thought process, and you know, just wanted to get out there and explore it, right? And that's me with collectibles, guys.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a collector as well, but not nearly on the scope that my brother is, and so is Mike. And that you're right, Kenny. And we're going to get into this in a little bit after we talk about your channel. But one of the things Mike and I bonded on over with, besides our enjoyment of like alternate history and things like that, and science and stuff like that, and different books and things and podcasts, was we're both retro video game collectors. And initially when we started the show, that was going to be a big part of it. In fact, early on, we have a handful of videos where we're
that's right.
Yeah, and we're going to keep doing that when we go to different towns and stuff for whatnot. For conferences and stuff, we're going to check out video game stores, because we like to just go into the retro stores and just look at the old games, look at the boxes, see what they got, thumb through the bins, you know.
Heck yeah.
And that's one of the things my brother is a master at, and I'm not. I will spend only a couple minutes doing, but my brother will spend hours going through bins at a comic store, or video game store, or card store. But I wanted to ask you, Kenny, you collect. Your biggest things, as far as I understand, that you collect are baseball cards, comics, and Magic the Gathering cards, correct?
Yes. Yeah, those would be the big three.
Okay. And which is your favorite and why?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to sound funny because it just depends on what point in my life you would have met me, right? Or what you would have asked that question. And currently it would be most definitely comic books. You know, I've always been into comic books, as we established early on. Thank you, Uncle Don. And it just struck a chord for me. You know, I love reading books too, but I always felt like I struggled concentrating when it came to novels, you know, large books. And again, I one of the first books I read was The Hobbit in the 4th grade. But, you know, I really had to pour myself into it. Something comic books afforded me was the ability to appreciate the artwork, something I was budding into. You know, I would copy out of Ninja Turtle books and Spider-Man books and Batman books, and I would, you know, really try to nurture my creative side with that. But it really allowed me to read these stories that were actually beyond the scope of what you would find typically on like a G.I. Joe cartoon or something. And, you know, I found I was able to escape into this world a little easier than maybe as an adult. I'll read a giant Stephen King book, but when I was a kid, you know, it was a struggle for me, you know, attention wise. So it was definitely something I was drawn to. And the other side of that coin, obviously, for me, was the collectability portion of it. You know, we ascribe value to things based on monetary systems, based on supply and demand, and then there's just that intrinsic value, and you can kind of put that on all of that on collectibles, right? You know, it's all in play. You know, sometimes people just really want it because it's the thing to have. Sometimes it's nostalgia, right? And I found along the way, whether it was cards, comics, or rocks and bottle caps and stuff. There was just always some sort of pull for me, you know, and there was a comfort in it. And as Dave was getting at, something that I love to do, like if our cousin Jerry was on here with us, he's been to some comic conventions with me, and one thing people had to learn with me early on, and I had to learn this too, and I would warn people, I'm like, okay, if you're going to go to a convention with me, you're going to have to understand that you're not there. I'm in the convention room. I'll be digging through books and maybe go get you a drink, maybe have you some lunch, but just know it's going to be a minute, right? Because for me, it wasn't about just finding the book, right? It was a treasure hunt. It was the ability, it was the ability to find the book at the right price, at the right time, in the right place, and being able to actually have the patience to do that as a kid or a young man was actually kind of difficult, because at times, even as a kid, I had the money to buy something, but I knew the value of it, you know, through my own experiences, through how I would notice other sellers selling something. You know, I would notice well before the internet and our ability to turn the phone on and just go, let me get instant data, you know, just from my own travels. Right.
The internet totally turned that on its end, though. I really like that mode of going there in person, waiting for the convention to come to town, versus if you get the bug, you got to scratch the itch. Anyone can get on eBay or Amazon.com and find, use, sort it by condition. It's not quite as fun, though.
Right. Well, you do get a massive hit of dopamine if you order Dragon Warrior 3 on Amazon, and then, but it's still, you're right, it's not the same thing.
For the occasional odds and ends that, hey, I found 5 parts out of 6 in various stores and conventions over the years, and I'm going to go ahead and find part 6 on eBay and buy it.
Well, Mike, I love that you asked that, because that kind of correlates with my whole whatnot thing, because you're absolutely right. And Dave as well. That dopamine hits right there. It's a swipe of a button on whatnot. It's the press of a button on eBay. I know those buttons all too well. And but one thing I've discovered is that it's still, instead of just this tiny little flea market, it's this national, often global marketplace that you just throw yourself into. And as easy as it is, and I've been I've allowed myself to be the victim of that, where, you know, you just kind of, man, I've swiped a few too many times tonight, right? But in the end, I realized I could do the same thing. You know, this is just an online flea market, right? I could take my time, I could bide my time, really, and still find the books I was looking for, still find the cards I was looking for, and find them at unique and interesting prices. Sometimes you're paying face value for something because you want it, right? Sometimes you're paying face value for something because you want it, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, a lot of other people want it. And that's sort of the fun balance of it there, because I don't for the majority of my life, even though I knew the values of these things, be it the monetary or intrinsic values, I just enjoyed having it. You know, I like telling you how much it was worth, right? So this whole whatnot selling, buying thing, I started playing around with that on eBay, and let me tell you, the hardest hurdle about the whole eBay thing for me was seller's remorse. Oh my goodness, I had to get past that in a hurry, because you feel really proud and open and excited about it. Like, I'm sharing this thing I have with the world, and it's worth this much. And then all of a sudden, you get offers or somebody just buys it right up from you. You're like,
and then you have to send it to them.
It's like, I'll tell you straight up.
It's like a contract at that point.
I did that. One of my first eBay sales. For anybody that loves comics, you'll know this book. It's The Amazing Spider-Man 300. It's the first appearance of Venom. Now, everybody knows Venom through the movies and cartoons, and, you know, all any just like regular Venom merchandise. It just sort of pops up and pops around. Hey, thanks for pulling that up. That's from my Whatnot store. That's the show with KenFlo. Those are literally books that I have for sale. And as I like to say on the show with KenFlo, everything's open for a KenFlo disco. So that's just part of the riff. But join me. We have all kinds of fun.
So have you dabbled on eBay before? And is Whatnot, I'm not familiar with the Whatnot platform, so it's a new popular platform.
Yeah, it really is. So just imagine, if you've attended an eBay live session, Mike,
I never have.
You haven't. Okay, so basically it's a live marketplace. So they can't hear you as the customer, but you can hear them as the auctioneer, basically.
Okay.
And they're either selling it to you, or you're making a deal, or you're placing a bid. In the case of comic books or cards, things of that nature, that we call it building a stack. You know, it's sort of vernacular for, hey, I don't want to buy this yet, but I want to build a bigger stack, and I want to, eventually cash out later or down the road. In some cases, some places will, if you're a reputable buyer, you're right, they know you're going to come back. They'll actually let you keep books on the side for a little bit, which is something I do. I've got some, I've only been doing this about 3 months on Whatnot, and I've got a number of regulars now that I'm always happy to do that for. So something I try to advertise even. It may be a side gig, but I'm putting everything into it. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
It's been fun to watch, like, because I got the app, and I'm not into buying comics or anything, but like I'll hop on Kenny's stream and say hi sometimes, and then he always shouts out our YouTube channel. So and he does it on his YouTube channel as well. And so we wanted to give him the opportunity to come on here and shout out a show. And just FYI, Brittany put the link to his Whatnot page in the chat. So if you're interested in comics, you want to check out Kenny's Whatnot page, and you download the app, you'll get a notification if you follow him that when he goes live. So if you go live like a few times a week, or what?
Yeah, I go live almost every night. I actually went live twice this afternoon before the show. On days off, I try to hit the afternoon.
Yeah, something crazy happened today too, right? Can you tell us about that with a comic or something? And then, if you want to.
So actually, a couple really unique. We were talking about a pre-show. We called it fortuitous situations occurred, and we say that because in regards to the subject matter being collecting and. In a lot of cases, the situational value of stuff, even the science we were talking about, it's hard to ignore symbols and signs and stuff that just jumps out at you, right? And I was dropping off a series of packages, sales from the night before on my Whatnot show, the show with KenFlo. And I regularly show up at the post office to the point where they gave me a business card, and I still need to actually contact these people to where they can actually just start coming to my house and picking packages up. But to be honest with you, and Dave would know this, and my insurance agent.
Shout out to John Keithley. That's one of Kenny's.
John Keithley.
Yeah, he's always commented on YouTube, and I think he just subscribed to us today, I believe. So thank you so much for the new sub, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend. Check him out. He's got a great logo, and he is also a Whatnot seller. It's a good dude. Absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're A-okay. So today, man, one of my favorite things to do is to jump. I thought it would be. The hardest part would be packaging stuff up and getting to the post office and waiting in some dreadful line. I'll tell you what, it's like Christmas morning for me going to the post office. There could be 12 people in line, all with international departure receipts, and they don't know how to fill it out in front of me. And I'm just pleased as punch to be there, because I know that everybody that's at that window knows how to process my stuff. I'm good to go, and it's a sale that's out the door.
Plus, you're accomplishing something, you're making some money. Plus, you're completing someone else's collection, which I wonder, is that like a source of motivation for you as well?
That's a great question, Dave, and it really is, because it goes back to that seller's remorse that I was talking to you, Mike, about, which I noticed Mike reacted to that when I talk about seller's remorse, because it's true, right? Like you go from being pretty proud of something to going, I have to send this away. And it really lends itself to the process to know that someone, in this case, John Might be commenting on it now. I can't actually see the comments on my phone, but
he's just saying,
John,
thanks, glad to be here.
Yeah, well, something John. The reason I know John so well is he started off as a customer of mine, and we got to know each other through auctions on eBay, and he became one of my eBay customers. And it just was this rewarding situation where we could actually take the time through messages. Sometimes we would take weeks to broker a deal on some books, exchanging pictures and just pleasantries about comics, and it was like, wow, I really appreciate the social aspect of this, which is something that didn't quite exist for me as a kid. You know, it was just, unless I was around my two friends that like comic books, there wasn't much of a community.
Or Uncle Don.
Or Uncle Don, exactly. But Uncle Don, he had this intimidating collection, which, of course, we mentioned earlier, he donated a large portion to me, and I will forever be grateful to that. That was so many amazing books. So today, guys, I'm at the post office, and it's free and clear. I'm so excited because there's nobody in line. Everyone's just waiting for me to get up to the thing, and I get stopped from behind. And there's this guy who's going, hey, hold on a second. What you got there? And I'm like, kind of hesitant at first because I really don't want to tell people what's in these packages because in some cases they're pretty valuable. And he goes, he notices my hesitation. He goes, no, I see the label. He goes, I'm a whatnot seller, so I'm guessing that's what you do. And I go, oh, wow. Okay, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. So long story short, I got to know this guy real quick in line. We exchanged follows on Whatnot, and we've already exchanged a bunch of information. It's great that he's local too, right? So I told him about a place that you guys know about, which is Video Game Trader, which is right next to a favorite, my favorite family comic shop ever. You know, I spoke about Odyssey 2000.
What's it called?
It's called Galactic Quest. Galactic Quest Comics. You got locations in Beaufort, Georgia, and Lawrenceville, Georgia. Both locations are historic. Both have been around for decades. Highly recommend it on May the 4th. That's May the 4th be with you. On that Saturday, the first Saturday in May, every year is free comic book day. Go to your favorite comic book location. In this case, in Georgia, go to Galactic Quest. Kyle and his family run a great shop. Everybody gets dressed up on free comic book day. It's like Halloween for adults, man. And I know Halloween is also for adults, but this one kicks ass. I recommend showing up to your local comic book store. My apologies, Brittany, if you had to bleep that, but that is, I get excited about the subject matter.
No, there's no bleeping on our show.
Love it. So yeah, guys.
We don't have the budget for that yet.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, here I am running into a fellow Whatnot seller. Again, I say fortuitous because, you know, of all the days, times, odds, I've been to this post office a million times. It just happens to be the day.
Was he there dropping off a sale that he had just made?
He sure was, Mike, actually, and he sells Pokemon cards. So yeah, I can only imagine the wheeling and dealing that goes on there. And you know, that's one of my, I don't want to call regrets because I like Pokemon Go, the app, the game, and there's a Nintendo 64 Pokemon game that I thought was really cool, Battle Arena or whatever, but I never really got into the card game. But boy, did I miss the boat. That's some valuable stuff if you got the old school Pokemon stuff.
Mike, you were into Pokemon, weren't you? That was like your time frame?
A bit back in like second, third, fourth grade. I mean, I was there in 1998 when they released those games on the Game Boy for the first time, and it was a severe disruption to the school system.
Probably just like Pokemon Go was.
And at the same time was the games, the cars, the TV show, the little Lunchables. It was, forget about it. I was in the
can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, awesome. One of my headphones died, so hopefully the other one hangs in there for a minute. So real quick, guys, again, this is all today. This all happened today. I ran into this guy today, and I was dropping off my own packages of comic books that my customers bought. In this case, it was several regulars and several new people, and always excited to have new people, even if you're not buying something, just adding to the conversation, like you said, Dave, just popping in and saying what's up. I mean, you know, it's just like I'm trying to make it Cheers with comic books. You know what I mean? And so my other plan, guys. So, and I'm glad you pulled up the Galactic Quest errata and itinerary and all that information, because I've been going to see this shop since I moved to Georgia. So we're talking like 26 years I've been going to this shop. And I've gotten to know Kyle and his family over the years. As a matter of fact, his daughter worked for me when I was running Starbucks. So it's just been amazing to watch his business and his family grow. And he's the ultimate comic book guy. You know, he's about 6'7" or something, so he's not Simpsons comic book guy, but he's the ultimate comic book guy. He knows his stuff, he knows the business, and he's been putting up with me for 26 years, y'all. And I mean it. I show up sometimes to make deals. Sometimes I show up with my hat in my hand, and I want to just know what a good book is. Just like, you know, tell me what I need to be reading, Kyle. And through that, I've gotten to know some of the I almost call them the stewards of his shop. You know, I love Lord of the Rings and Tolkien references, so I always think of the steward of Gondor. And in this case, this would be my friend Jason, who is you know, he's never called himself a manager or anything like that, so I'm going to call him the steward of Galactic Quest. And him and I had a really interesting conversation today. So I had this plan, guys, to head over to Galactic Quest today. Kyle usually works on Thursdays. And so if I want to talk to Kyle about anything, whether it's making a deal or, like I said, what kind of book I should be reading, something to put on the pull list, that's a subscription list, you show up on Thursday. And I wanted to ask Kyle about, you know, maybe doing some business. And it's something I talked with his steward, Jason, about. And that would be taking my Whatnot auction to his shop, much like you guys would take your podcast to a video game shop and do an interview, you know, talk about this, that, and the other. In this case, I'd go there live and sell his merchandise. And so it's something that I've been meaning to get with Kyle about. You know, he knows I'm interested in doing this. And so I showed up there to talk to him today about doing that. But again, fortuitous being the thing, Kyle wasn't there. So you'd think that would be a bad thing. Like, oh no. Like, here I am. I'm ready to talk to Kyle. And trust me, you know, I've known this guy for a while. And been to this place a whole bunch. But I had butterflies in my stomach. I was like trying to be in, you know, not game shape, but have my game face on, right? Be ready to explain myself and be concise.
Yeah, you're making a business proposal, right?
Yeah,
it's an important conversation.
Absolutely. And then I get in there and all that air gets taken right out of the balloon. Jason's there, Kyle's not. Turns out Kyle's anniversary is today, and him and his wife had to switch with Jason. And so my buddy Jason was there, and he humbly apologized. And I'm like, oh no, it's fantastic. I became instantly happy that they were off enjoying their engagement. So, you know, and it turns out he'll be in on Saturday, so I'm going to go talk to Kyle on Saturday. So I'd say wish me luck, but I feel pretty confident about this one, boys.
It sounds like it'll be a win-win, because he has another revenue stream for his merchandise, but he's not having to do the extra effort. You're already familiar, comfortable using the platform. You can just use it for him.
Yep. Just combine our efforts and bring the heat. It's a lot of fun, and if you like comic books, man, Whatnot's the place to be. And I'll tell you what, guys, I went in there with all that gusto, and you know, and when the air let out, I was able to kind of revert back to customer mode, back to Kenny mode, and now just a little boy in a comic shop. And there are a few things that jumped out at me right away. I had to ask about, had to look at, and then I found something, and it just jumped out at me. Oh my goodness! So it wasn't even so much as a negotiation tactic here as it was me just being flabbergasted. I was taken aback when I found a book that I didn't expect to see, and I ended up working out a pretty nice deal. with Jason for the book, and I immediately, kind of I was freaking out inside. I was just like, I was doing a tap dance, when we finalized the deal, and it's because it's not just that it's a book, but it's a keepsake. It's a signed book that it's a signature I've not had in my collection. I've had a bunch of signatured signed books, signed artist books. There's going to be a couple that I'm going to show you, but this one right here, my goodness gracious. And the story continues afterwards, but I've never had this signature. I'm going to show you guys this real quick. It's going to pop too, because it's on a 1990s hologram cover. Web of Spider-Man issue 90. I want you to maybe take a gander at that and guess whose signature that would be.
I think I'm getting it back. You're in reverse, so it's hard to tell.
Spider-Man.
I know
itself.
It's Peter Parker. He did
it. Can you see the signature though?
We can see it. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, guys. That's signed by the late great Stan Lee.
No way.
Oh.
Yeah. These are hard to come by. They don't just show up. I've never seen one in person. Not to say he hasn't signed thousands of signatures, but people hold on to these things, and this one, that's how this one came to be. This came out of a collection that Kyle had purchased from a reputable customer in his own right. So it's probably someone even sillier than me, right? That built up a substantial collection, and in that collection were Stan Lee signatures. So what's great about this was of those signatures, they sent a number of them off to be graded and certified, and those signatures came back certified as authentic. So just adds to the tail of the tape for this book. Right. So I just wanted to show you guys this, because this isn't, I could have shown you a number of things, that I think are cool, or that I think you should be reading, or that just have a lot of value. And this does have that value to it, but it is the intrinsic value with this one, man. This one, now I'm apt to sell most anything now that I've broken that ice. I don't have that seller's remorse anymore. I can be okay with letting something go, especially as you guys pointed out earlier, if I know it's going to a collector. And trust me, you run into those folks on Whatnot, because they put you through the ringer, and I love it. The longer it takes for me to make a sale, the better, because then I know I've shown a customer every angle of that book, every little detail. And again, guys, I just want to show you this because even right now I've got goosebumps. I've never had a Stan Lee autograph. I wanted to share it with you guys. I was very excited about this.
Thanks, man. Thanks for telling us that story. You mentioned it to me earlier, but I told him to save it for the show. And that's what it's all about, right? Is like you go to the store literally hundreds, if not thousands of times in 26 years. That blows me away. But then and you're going there for a totally different reason. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's something you've always wanted, which I think is a really cool thing. So thank you so much for showing us that. And I think that's a good lead in to talk about your YouTube channel briefly before we get into some video game stuff and then call it a night.
Guys,
so, I'm going to pull up your YouTube channel. I got to tell you guys, Kenny's been going at this for a few years now, and it's been fun to watch his channel grow. I'm going to trying to find it. Did I lose
Baseball cards before work. That's a top-notch edition with the Stan Lee signature comic book.
Tell you what.
I'm pulling it up now, I think. But either way, you can tell me
Baseball
about
cards before work, guys. We've shortened it to channel BCBW. Dave helped me generate a logo with AI. I love the logo. I think channel BCBW has a great ring to it. I had a lot of my comic book customers try to talk me into just changing the channel name, but I just thought it added an eccentric little twist to it. Because, in my opinion, it is ironic. We used to be all about baseball cards, and we still do enjoy our baseball cards. And something I wanted to share with you guys in honor of opening day. And I'm not sure how the game ended, to be honest with you. If someone in the chat could look that up, I'd love to know if my Braves beat the Padres today.
Brittany, did the Braves beat the Padres today?
And what I want to show you guys here is one of my favorite baseball cards. and it's so cool. It's eBay authenticated because you don't want to take chances with stuff like this. But in honor of the Braves, in honor of one of the greats, Hank Aaron, I just want to show you guys one of my favorite baseball cards from my baseball card collection.
Stop sharing for a second. Padres won 4-7.
4-7. That's all right, man. The Padres are a good team. I want you guys to share with me Hammer and Hank Aaron's rookie card from Bowman, I believe it's 1956.
Wow.
But that is Hank Aaron's rookie card.
Wow.
Certified authentic by eBay. And this is one of the first items I showed on my channel. So I wanted to share this with you guys, not only because it's opening day. I'm a massive Braves fan. So I believe so is Dave. And Hammer and Hank all the way. This is a card I didn't know I always wanted. I'll put it to you that way. And I'd, if I had a paper route, I would have had to save up for quite a while. And but again, for me, this is intrinsic value here. This isn't something I'm apt to sell. This is something I just enjoy sharing, with everybody. Just a great little card, great little piece of history.
Well, the cool thing about collections as well is it's like I have a massive video game collection in my basement that Kenny's been part of building. But I sometimes I just walk down here and I go, yeah, it's fun to just see your own collection. It's very much for me. I'm not gonna lie. But so how do you do your as far as your channel goes? And guys, throw Kenny a subscription on baseball cards before work. He does unboxing of video or comic books and baseball cards. You'll get back there eventually. Like you said, it depends on the season of his life.
I pulled up ESPN. Here's the update for opening day. The Padres beat the Braves 7-4. Astros beat the Mets 3-1. White Sox beat the Angels 8-1.
The White Sox beat the Angels. Nice.
Wow.
Giants beat the Reds 6-4. I'm not going to read all of them. That was about half of them. And then the Dodgers and Tigers just started, and the Twins and Cardinals are at the bottom of the sixth.
It is spring.
Baseball is back.
Yeah, baseball.
I'm excited about the Dodgers Tigers because, guys, the Tigers pitching is amazing this year. I don't think they're going to win the World Series or anything, but I'd love to see them upend the Dodgers to start the year.
That would be good. So how do you do your channel? Do you just, is it, because Mike and I, we're like every Thursday, every Friday. You're a little more like when you have time kind of thing.
So I would call myself, I'm the ADHD poster child of YouTube videos. It just depends, much like you said, the season of my life for other things. It depends on my mood, and it depends on the setting for me. Sometimes I'll drop 2-3 videos in a week. Sometimes I'll drop 2-3 videos in a month. Sometimes I've dropped 2-3 videos in a day. So it really just, however the moon's angled or the stars align for me.
And do you go live or do you record it and then upload it?
I record it and I upload it. So like you mentioned, for the most part, it's unboxings and it's me expounding upon that, the books I'm showing you, and in a lot of cases, the recent episodes I'm referencing Mike and Dave's Multiverse along with the show with KenFlo on Whatnot.
Yeah,
I figured it'd be a great vehicle to spread my fingers and.
Yeah, both. Like you could, when you're on Whatnot, talk about your YouTube channel. When you're on YouTube, talk about your Whatnot auction site, right?
Vice versa. We'll talk about you. You talk about us. If anyone that's watching is into any of this stuff, now you got a new entertainment hobby outlet. Tune into baseball.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I wanted to circle back around to like collecting in general, and talk about what Mike and I collect, which Kenny also has been a big part of my own personal collection as well. But we opened the show with the theme song to Bard's Tale 3, which is on a bunch of different systems. We played it on Commodore 64. I was literally 5 years old when we were playing that, and Uncle Don was showing us how to play. And you know, that started my like obsession with role-playing games and video games in general. This is before we ever even had a Nintendo. Kenny and I amassed in our brother Will, like a pretty decent NES and Super Nintendo collection that talk about seller's remorse. We sold one day for to buy something rather unsavory. And I look back and want to punch myself in the face about it more than often than you'd think. But I came down to visit Kenny after he moved to Georgia, like years later, to find out that he had regained a lot of the games that we had lost. He had rebought a lot of the stuff that we lost, right? And I don't think you brought anything with you. You were buying it here, correct?
Yeah, I was buying it here. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had all these classic NES games, and his wife, I don't know if she's watching right now, if she is, shout out Felisa, but she had a bunch of old classic games too. So I think some of her games are here. But then Kenny and I started building this collection, and what's cool is I'm just surprised and shocked that Mike is so into like all the games I'm into, because he's 10 years younger than me, right? And so I assumed he'd be like, you know, into Call of Duty and stuff like that. But Mike knows all the old games, he's probably played more old retro RPGs than I have or you have put together. And he's got a decent little collection too. So to round out the show, we wanted to share a little bit of our collections and stuff. Mike, did you want to go first?
Yep. I can go first. So just to rewind a little bit, I don't really call myself like an avid collector, really anything nowadays, but I've always taken good care of books, CDs, anything like that. And if I can complete a set, complete a set or series of books or get all the CDs by an artist, that type of thing, I've always had an eye for that. And also like quality of it, I would much rather buy a book that's in good condition or a video game that's in good condition with the box rather than a loose CD or a burned CD that somebody just burned the CD by this artist. Not that there isn't all of the above in the collection, right? So growing up, I'd usually get a video game too at Christmas each year, and then another one or two my birthday in the summer. And I'm going to show a couple of games that I bought during high school that I think are really good in my collection.
From high school, right?
I wanted to get something that I had bought, back in the day. And then in more, so actually I'll go ahead and show that first. So I bought this game October 31st, 2006.
Wow.
The deluxe edition, collector's edition of Final Fantasy 12.
Nice.
And which was a tremendous game. PlayStation 2 was the second console that I owned. First one I had was an N64. And had a blast playing that game. I bought this at the GameStop, I think, on 1960. Still in excellent condition. Hundreds of hours on a PS2 on this. And the other one I wanted to show you guys. So I bought that in 06.
That box looked brand new, dude.
It did, yeah. Well, Mike's apartment's immaculate. You'd be shocked like how clean he is.
I know y'all are big fans of Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
I think I was probably only like 5 or 6 years old when the first one came out. I didn't play it on PlayStation 1. But somewhere around 2007 or 2008, I got this Metal Gear Solid Essential Collection. I thought my camera...
That looks brand new, too.
There we go.
It's fantastic.
Which has
Do you ever run through it?
Games, and I did. So I played through the first Metal Gear Solid my senior year of high school, which is an immensely challenging game. It's
my gosh, yeah.
That is a tough game. I had a lot of fun with that. And I remember playing through Metal Gear Solid 2 in what must have been fall of 09, which was my freshman year of college. And I remember this exactly because the BP oil spill had happened that fall. I don't know if y'all remember. BP broke an oil rig down in the Gulf of Mexico, and it was shooting out oil into you for days and days and days. It was a big deal. And I'm playing through this video game, and I don't know if y'all remember, but the entire premise of Metal Gear Solid 2 begins with an oil spill. and then a cleanup operation to clean up the oil spill, which ends up being deep underground military bases underneath the ocean, developing nuclear robots, and you got to save the world from all that. And I'm here watching BP on the news thinking, oh no, be very suspicious of these cleanup efforts.
That's funny.
Apparently, your PlayStation endeavors is all just training for this real secret mission.
Exactly.
That's a great scene in that game too, because it's like dark and raining, and like at the beginning of the game when you're on that oil rig. I've got.
I remember that vividly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the original Metal Gear on NES, as well as the sequel, which is not called Metal Gear; it's called Snake's Revenge.
Yep.
And I've got them both over there. They're immensely challenging too. Immensely challenging. In fact, Mike, next time you come over, we should have a rip on one of those.
Nintendo was so unforgiving.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I got a few over here I'm going to show you. Anything else you got, Mike? Or
yeah, I dusted those off because I bought those and played them during those years. That was true PS2 days. I guess PS3 had just come out around that time. I was still playing a lot of PS2. And then I didn't collect games really in college. I mean, in college, I did figure out, okay, I can use Amazon.com and go find used games for cheap. I still didn't have much of a budget in college to just be spending on games. But if I really wanted to get a game or something, I would find it cheaper on Amazon. Fast forward, finish college, go to work. I didn't really play a whole lot of games for several years. Sometime around 2020, I had just like paid off my car and I was going to go on a trip or something. It was 2020 and then COVID happened. So here I am just going to the grocery store every other week. And I started going to the Second and Charles across the street from the grocery store every other time.
Oh, I love that place.
And just spending $50 or $60 and buy 5 or 6 used games. I would just take the time, like you said, and read through every title on the shelf, compare the quality if there were multiple of them. You know, I'm willing to pay a couple extra bucks for the box and manual if they've got it. But it's also nice to find a bunch of games that were $59.99 back in 2006 and say, I just got 6 of those games for $59.99 today.
Right.
You know? So that's fun too. Anyhow, long way to say, here's some new old games that I've gotten in the last couple of years. Command and Conquer, of course, is a PC real-time strategy game.
Mm-hmm. Is that sealed?
This is not factory sealed. This has a plastic case, N64 one.
That's still immaculate, though. That's great.
Actually, in Oregon, about a year and a half ago, when I went to visit my friend Stefan, shout out, I had a blast collecting games on that trip with my other friend Chance. If you're watching, Chance also likes to play Magic the Gathering. And then here was the PlayStation version. And then the last one I'll show, which I actually bought when Dave and I went to the shop in Atlanta, was Red Alert for the PlayStation.
Oh, cool. That had to have been fun picking that one up, Mike.
And I will say the Command & Conquer is playable on PlayStation. It's obviously a lot easier with a mouse and keyboard for that style of game. But the Red Alert made some little minor improvements. Red Alert is very playable. You can do a multiplayer match. It's fun.
I kind of want to give it a go now.
I'm trying to find the Command & Conquer short we made, but I don't see it on here. Oh well.
Yeah.
We made a little short about that, but I can't find it right now.
And sometimes I do. I just dust off all the games on the shelf and look at them and don't really even play them. I bought a bunch back in 2020 and 2021, and it definitely became a theme of like funny to round out the collection.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat, Mike.
I'm a little different. I'm a bit impulsive, but just you guys both know that about me. But just in general, but like as I mentioned, Kenny and I had a decent collection based on our means at the time. You know, back then you might like Final Fantasy III was like $100 when it came out. So was Chrono Trigger, and you know,
Canadian prices, y'all.
Yeah, and so you know, it was difficult to get games. I don't know, Mike, if you were like, did you ever rent video games at like Blockbuster and stuff?
Yes. So in fact, and one of the main game stores that I went to was sort of the game selling store was the side store, and the main place was video and game rental store. Hollywood Video, that was the chain.
Yeah. Ours was Jumbo Video. There was another one we went to, which was basically Hollywood Video or Blockbuster, but in Canada, and eventually turned into a Blockbuster, I believe. What was the one on Main Street? Will, if you're listening,
wasn't there an Ambassador? video?
I don't think so. There was one on Main Street in Dartmouth. Will knows what it is. But either way, that was our main mode of playing video games, right? Is like we'd have a couple bucks. Usually Kenny had paper route money, or my friend Mark, he also had a paper route.
Yeah, he did it with his brother. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my best friend Mark, shout out to him if he's watching, he's probably not. But on a Saturday night, we'd rent video games, get pizza and soda, and it was like always make a night of it, and or a full weekend of it, right? But then Kenny moved to the U.S. I moved to the U.S. I joined the Army. Then I moved around a lot. I had to get rid of my possessions more than 3-4 times to move, and so like I just didn't collect. Yeah, and so video difference. No, Will, it was the one. The guy's name was Manuch. It moved across the street. It was on the side with Swish LA. Then they moved to the other side next to the poker hall. No, no. Next to the pool hall, under the pool. Anyway, either way, I finally moved to Georgia and put down some roots, and that's when like I bought a home, and Kenny and I, before I even bought the home, we're like planning out what this man cave was going to look like, and how we were going to set it up with video games and stuff like that. And I do a little spin around, but it's messy in here right now. I might do it at a different time. But since then, I've been building our collection. Kenny donated his collection to here, and we've set up over there. I've got great spot. Over there, I've got an NES, a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo 64, and a GameCube. And what's the other one? GameCube, all set up there and ready to play. I've got, let's see here. I'll pull up my CLZ games list. I've got 137 NES games, 57 Super Nintendo games, and it goes on. I'm not going to brag about it, but it's something that I've been.
Wanted to say.
Say what? Oh yeah.
Thanks to Mom.
Oh yeah, there we go. Did you put up her comment? I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I've been slowly building it. So there's 3 or 4 different stores around here. I took Mike to actually 3 of them around here.
Pretty good ones.
Yeah.
To be honest, the second in Charles, I was a big part of it, but their stock of used games has dwindled. They obviously have a lot of cool books, albums, CDs, all that, but it's not a great game store today. So the ones up in Atlanta are pretty good.
Yeah, and shout out to Kenny mentioned earlier retro games in Alpharetta, I think it is, as well as Wizards in Gainesville, Georgia.
I love Wizards. Yeah.
Brittany is Johnny on the spot here, so I'm gonna share the short we made of Mike completing his Command and Conquer collection. And we plan to do more of this on our channel. So if you think we're just a ancient history and author stuff, no, this is Mike and Dave's Multiverse, and we plan to do more of stuff like this. And we've actually got some content that we need to do. But let's go ahead and play this. This might have been our first or second short, and this is actually Showcase Games. And where the heck were we? Brittany, can you look up Showcase Games in Georgia and tell me where we were? I might even say it here, but let's go.
I love that it's Warriors of Light. So good.
For Showcase Games in Carterville, Georgia, picking up a couple of NES titles to round out my collection. Got Gyromite and Milo's Secret Castle. We'll play test them when we get home. Hey, it's Dave from Mike and Dave's Multiverse. We're here in Cartersville, Georgia at Showcase Games with
Case, he said.
It's called Showcase Games. Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. There you go. What is your favorite part about owning a game store?
I get to see a lot of stuff, that's for sure. Generally the cool stuff that comes in, like I've got like a CDI that somebody brought me that like her mom worked for Philips, so like she like did the presentations and stuff. So I've got like a ton of demonstration discs that she used to go to like run on like the bad stuff to get and stuff like that.
I remember my friend got a CDI for Christmas one year. We had no idea what it was, but we were like, "What's
Oh, it's terrible. It's so funny.
He thought he was getting a PlayStation, I think.
Yeah, that's a disappointing one for sure.
Yeah. So it's like kind of rare stuff, like random stuff. That
Yeah, just the stuff you don't see every day. I mean, I had a Target Game Boy Advance, like, those existed, so like it's kind of cool to see it in person. Yeah, like it said Target on the lens and everything. So just random.
Do you have any like memories of like getting like maybe like a cool thing that specifically that came in that you never thought you'd ever see again or never thought you'd see?
Not that's really come in. I mean, I have some stuff here that you're probably not seeing.
No, yeah. Is there anything like that? It's like you're here. It's like you're like.
Oh, my baby's here. You want to see it?
Yeah, let's see it. Yeah, check it out.
What could it be?
Yeah,
One of
and so-
our earlier tips at recording, video editing, adding the music, all that stuff. That was fun to make that one.
It was, and you can expect more of that stuff on our channel. We're going to do more stuff like that. If you don't know what a Neo Geo is, it's a rare system. The games are ridiculously expensive nowadays, and so is that console, which is why he referred to that as his baby. And so, but yeah, Case from Showcase Games. I've been there a couple times now. I can't remember where it's at. I think maybe, did I say Cartersville?
You
Was
did
that
say
it?
Cartersville, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And so, if you notice, so we named those videos in the video series Warriors of Light. Mike and I are both Final Fantasy fans. So we played the Final Fantasy overworld music and the fight music and the You Wanna Fight song at the end. And we're going to do more of that. And it's mostly going to be like game shopping, like here I found this game, and interviews with, we have an interview with a guy at Retro Games in Lulu, Georgia, if you want to check that out. Yeah, that's also posted on YouTube. But I wanted to show a couple of things from my collection. That's a good segue into that. And so the first thing I want to show is, there we go, this bad boy. Uncle Don says, recently played Pool of Radiance and Eye of the Beholder. Did you play the actual gold box versions, or were you playing it like in a...
They're on Steam. There's 32 jillion of those games on Steam, and I totally bought that. I'll begin to play through them slowly.
Because Will had all the gold box, I think at least 5 or 6 of them. I don't know how many there are. And Will, our brother, and he would play them, and Kenny and I would stay up late watching them. At one point, we were all sharing the same room, and it would be like 3 in the morning. There'd be like school the next day, and we're watching Will playing Pool of Radiance and stuff like that.
That was exciting. It was like a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Were you going to say something, Mike? Sorry, you were
leaning
in there.
They run in DOSBox. If you're not playing in DOSBox in 2025, you're not a retro gamer.
Knowing my Uncle Don, he's got like an old school computer set up, and he's playing them on there. I don't know. We'll see what he says. But this bad boy is the original Final Fantasy.
The OG.
Kenny.
Or something?
Yep. So he uses emulators on his PC, Uncle Don said, but he used to have the originals. In fact, I think the originals, Uncle Don, you gave to us, who, in answer to your earlier question, your old friend Lee came and bought the Commodore 64 as well as the hundreds of games, including those gold boxes, from us for, I think he gave us like $200 or something for it at the time, which seemed like a lot of money when we were like 15 or 16, but he walked out of there with a big smile on his face. So if you want to know where those are, Uncle Don, find your old friend Lee. Lee Floor. But just a little story about this game. We bought this when we lived on Center Street in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, when I was 10 years old. I remember the 3 of us come back from the mall with it, making our party, and I just remember being like engrossed in this game. Like, it's amazing how like nowadays the games, they kind of use your imagination for you. But like I'd be in school, like just not even caring what they're talking about in school, just thinking about every inch of this game and like what I was going to do when I got home. And
Red Mage right here.
Yeah, the Red Mage, and you had to have 4. So there was you had to have 4 characters. You couldn't have 3, and you couldn't have 5. So there was Will, Will, Dave, Dave, and then Ken, Kenf.
KenFlo.
Yep.
So that was the first iteration of KenFlo.
Right. And then I think our White Mage was named All with 3 L's.
Yeah, All with 3 L's.
Yeah. And it might be my favorite game of all time. But I got a couple other favorite games of all time, and they're in the series as well. I'm going to show these 2 bad boys as well. It's Final Fantasy 2 and Final Fantasy 3. These games took it to another level. Like things like this was like nowadays when you go from PS4 to PS5, there's not that big of a difference. When you went from Super NES to Super Nintendo, you went from Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy 2, which is actually 4, and 6, which is actually 3, which is actually 6. Sorry, I'm like backwards. But it's like a massive jump, and so you had like multiple different characters with storylines, and you had like they each had their own story arcs, and they'd make sacrifices to save the world, and like characters would die and stuff like that, and you'd be like, no, and then maybe they'd come back and stuff like that. But the one thing about these games that just always stuck with me was the dang music is just absolutely gorgeous. What they were able to do with 16-bit music back then. Mm-hmm. If you've never played any of these Final Fantasy games, I wouldn't recommend like just getting a Super Nintendo and trying to play them. But what I would recommend if you wanted to try them is get a Switch and get the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 remaster, because these bad boys take a lot of time and they're hard, and you sometimes like you die and you're screwed, right? Yeah. Whereas like the new ones, they're constantly resaving for you. They also make it so you can speed up the levelings and speed up the gold collection and stuff like that. So it's not such a labor, But I'm the type of person where I can zone out and just play, like go back and forth, make grinding, they call it in these games, and going up levels and stuff. But these are 3 games of my favorite games of all time, and they kind of set the table for a super team to be created of game development. Brittany, can you please look up the creating team of Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo? I don't remember their names exactly off the top of my head, but this is the greatest RPG of all time, okay, in my opinion, for consoles, okay? What they were able to do on this game,
and that's saying something.
Yeah, what they were able to do on this was just absolutely epic. It took everything to the next level, even past what Final Fantasy 3 was able to do, even though Final Fantasy 3 would be my favorite game of all time. This game is an absolute masterpiece. It shows up on the best RPGs of all time lists constantly. It shows up on people's best games of all time list. It's actually not that difficult. You could pick this up on a Super Nintendo, and as long as you're checking online, to make sure you can play it, it's not that difficult. But the artwork is gorgeous. The music is a masterpiece. They utilize time travel in a way that like was really almost impossible to do on these old consoles, and they were able to do it in a way where they pulled it off just magically. And I can remember just being like floored by this game. Like, I could not believe that this was possible, and it still holds up today. And I just want to say, Brittany said the game's development team, including 3 designers from Square, dubbed the Dream Team: Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Square's Final Fantasy series; Yuji Horii, creator of Enix's Dragon Quest series, which I'm going to get to in a second.
At that time, today those are by the same company because they merged, but at that time they were intense rivals.
They were intense rivals, and Final Fantasy, and it was called what was called Dragon Warrior here in the U.S. and Canada was called Dragon Quest in the U.K. and in Japan. But Yuji Hiroto created the Dragon Quest series, and Akira Toriyama, character design of Dragon Quest and author of Dragon Ball manga series. So these are all just huge franchises back then, and they came together to make that game. If you could get me the composer, Brittany, that would be great too, because he needs a shout out. And again, Chrono Trigger, maybe it's not my favorite game of all time, but it might be the best game of all time. And I know that might sound like the same thing, but it's not.
Well, and let me tell you, I mean that when I say to say the least, because there's other game of the century contenders from Super Nintendo, just like Link to the Past. I mean, people say the same thing about that. You know how it revolutionized the capabilities of what the system could do.
Right. So Chrono Trigger was scored primarily by Yasunori Mitsuda with assistance by veteran Final Fantasy composer. That's the guy I was looking for, Nobuo Uematsu. That's the guy who did Final Fantasy 3 and 2. So these guys were absolute geniuses creatively, and it was a passion project for them. They took a lot of pride in doing this. And, I don't know if you see that as much in game development anymore. I don't know why, but that's why you got those masterpieces back then. So just to round that out, I've also got Dragon Warrior 1 or Dragon Quest. Let's see here.
We played that in Porter's Lake, Dave. I remember going over to that kid's house. I forget the kid's name, but yeah.
Me too. Maybe it was Randy or something. Yeah. Here's Dragon Warrior 2.
Well, it's Randy now.
Yeah, he's Randy forever. But that kid, he was one of those kids. We all had that kid on our block that had every game. His parents bought him every game for some reason. It didn't seem like they were any much more richer than us, but for some reason they were always pulling off these games. But here's Dragon Warrior 3, and the box, the artwork on the covers, Dragon Warrior 3 and 4. Just gorgeous stuff. And the evolution of these games. Have you played these, Mike?
Yeah, and if I had known you were going to show those, I have Dragon Warrior 1, 2, and 3 on a Game Boy Color, and 4, 5, and 6 on Nintendo DS.
Can you go bust them out, or is it too hard to bust them out right now?
Hang on, I got a couple of them right here.
Okay. Yeah, and if you play through these series, they really show the progression of what an RPG can and would look like progression of RPGs through console. And 1 is very basic, but it's fun. And then by the time you get to 3 and 4, they've got all these different characters, storylines, class changes, all kinds of stuff. And they're just a joy for me to own. I would never sit down and grind my way through these games now. But just looking at them makes me happy, and having the complete collection makes me happy. And I've just shown you guys, let me look at my my game collection thing here. Chrono Trigger and Dragon Warrior 4 are 2 of my 5 most expensive games in my collection. Chrono Trigger is $232, and Dragon Warrior 4 is $118.
I don't even know what would be the most expensive game in my collection. I ought to start with the oldest, but also the most complete condition, and kind of go for that combination.
Yeah, you should get CLZ Games just for a month and catalog all your games. They do a really good job of doing that for you. What do you got, Mike? Show us what you got.
I just wanted to show, this is the Dragon Quest collection for portables.
Nice.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A couple of these were for 3DS.
Yeah.
I played Dragon Quest 8 on the PS2. I've not played this portable version.
I never played any of the modern Dragon Quest, but happy console gamers always talking about them like they're the best. So I feel like
my wife has a number of them. She's a PlayStation girl, and she really enjoys them.
Yeah, I heard they're pretty good, and they stayed true to the thing. Now, this Dragon Warrior 1, this is Kenny's copy. So when I came down to Georgia, when I moved here in 2015, he already had these. And he already had this. I added 2, 3, and 4 to the collection, and I just couldn't be more excited about them.
Completing the set, owning a game or one of anything is kind of cool, but if it's part of 4 and you can complete the set of 4, sign me up.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of complete sets over there. Double Dragon, Ninja Gaiden, which I call Ninja Gaiden. I've got all the Ninja Turtles ones for NES.
Oh, speaking of musical overtures, the Ninja Gaiden games deserve a
Oh my gosh, yeah, they deserve their own or separate episode. But as we're around, I got one thing else to show, and it's relatively new in my collection. It's relatively new in my collection. I did not know its rarity or its price until I got CLZ Games. Shout out to CLZ Games. They're really good at cataloging your video games for you.
They do comics as well.
Yeah. About 2 or 3 years ago, a guy Kenny worked with was like, "Hey, you collect video games, right? I have a box of games, right? Tell us what happened."
Yeah. So it was a guy I worked with, and he just picture the largest, jolliest fellow you could meet, short of Santa Claus, and he'd be groaning if he heard me say that. But just a big, awesome guy. And but I say that with a bit of tongue in cheek, because he had a bit of a dirty mind to him as well. He could tell the worst jokes sometimes, right? So really nice fella, but he'd catch you off guard, and I just thought that was cool and unique about him. And one of the things he caught me off guard with was this deal. He knew I was into this video game collection, and he was just kind of tired of having these. This stuff in his garage, and he told me about this box. Like as Dave said, it was a giant cardboard box full of games, and it was something that me and Dave would have dreamed about finding in a back alley somewhere, right? When we were kids, like oh man, imagine if we find all these games somewhere, or if I find it at the flea market for the practically nothing. And it comes to be that he just wants it to go to a place where he knows it's going to be appreciated. And he just looks at me and kind of, after he's described the number of games that are in the box, and we're talking spanning console generations through Super Nintendo and Sega Dreamcast and stuff like that. He asks me to quote him a price, and I'm a modest guy. Right. And I also know how that game works, right? As far as negotiations go, you'd much rather have them toss an offer out to you so that you can come back under or over, whatever the case may be. And so I throw the ball back in his court, and he just goes, I forget what it was, Dave. Like it was something so.
I think it was $50.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, it was like
exactly.
$45. Yeah. It was $45. He tosses out a number that despite my efforts and my understanding of the negotiation tactics, there was nothing I could come back over. As a matter of fact, I had to stop him. I'm like, oh, hey, some of the stuff you're describing here, I'm like, surely you want more than $45.
Yeah.
Like there's probably one of those games is worth $45. And he's like, no, it's not about money. And after much fuss from me, he just made it clear. He's like, look, I got to get rid of it. I got to move it out. I'd rather. He was enamored with mine and Dave's collection. I had shown him panoramic views and videos on my phone of the collection, and like Dave said, that's a series of episodes. Seriously.
It really is.
We just, so through this, and this was already, me and Dave were already in the thick of this collection of ours. So it was no longer just like the beginnings of a shared adventure. His man cave was built and all this great stuff. And here we come into this possession, this box that contains what, Dave?
Well, it contained a bunch of games. It completed several of my, series. It had NES games, Super Nintendo games, N64 games, Xbox games, Xbox 360 games. It was a massive box.
Oh yeah.
And I went through it and I was like, oh, wow, all these awesome games. And I at the time, I wasn't really into pricing games. I didn't really care how much my collection cost.
Right.
It wasn't why I was doing it. And so I just set everything up in the collection. And then shout out to Metal Jesus Rock's YouTube channel, but he does his video game. He does retro games and stuff like that. And he's always talking about CLZ games. So I was like, let me one day let me see what my collection is worth and what all is in there. And then I come across this game. It's a loose cart. It's a Super Nintendo game. It's one of the most expensive loose cart Super Nintendo games you can get. It's called Castlevania Dracula X.
I can say this must be rare if a loose cart is topping off your collection, because I know you got a lot of boxes in good condition back there.
I do. And this as a loose cart is worth $300. And it's not in perfect condition. As you can see, there's some writing on there. And I honestly never played this game growing up. Kenny, did you?
No,
I don't remember playing it. I remember playing Super Castlevania.
Right, exactly. But we never really went deeper into it. And it's because that's a deep cut game. That's a game that, from a comic book perspective, they call it print run. They only produce so many of those games. And I believe it came out near the end of Super Nintendo's run, right?
It did. And that's why there wasn't so many. And that's what usually drives up the price of games nowadays. So this guy had a $300. His box of games, if I were to guesstimate, was probably worth $600 or $700.
Yeah.
Half of it was this, but still, this has went up in price, in value, by $50 or $60 since I first looked at it. So it's going to keep going up. And maybe, Mike, this is the one we should have a rip on next time you come visit.
Absolutely. Castlevanias are fun. You might be able, with some surgical use of rubbing alcohol, you might be able to remove a little bit of that text off. But you got to watch out, because you don't want to get the sticker wet. The rubbing alcohol ruined the sticker.
Which actually, I was going to say, the sticker's not frayed or peeling.
The sticker's in good condition.
No, the sticker's in good condition. There's a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call that glue or dirt or something there.
Careful cleaning.
And then there.
There's a whole cottage industry for cleaning.
I know. I don't trust I'm too much of a Butterfingers. Wouldn't be paying attention, and I need somebody more detailed than myself to do it.
You're not allowed to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I need somebody who's very detail oriented to do it.
Next time we're hanging out, if we remember, I'll clean it off. Because normally when I buy a set of used games, if I get a haul from the store, they'll go in a purgatory stack before I can clean them and play test them. And it might be days or weeks later. Sometimes I buy games and don't play them for a couple of months. And then eventually I'm going to go through, okay, it looked like pretty good quality. That's why I bought it in the store, but I'm going to go and clean it off anyway. Some of them need cleaning. Yeah.
Right.
I hate waiting too long to play test them, though, because then if they don't work and you waited a couple of months, it's like you can't take it back.
I've got so much play testing to do that I haven't done, because I just what I've been doing lately is just going into these shops and buying their cheapest, crappiest NES games they have. So that they'll be ones that are $3 and $4 that totally suck. But I'm just getting them to add to my collection. I think there's 634 US releases or something like that. Over 700 if you include European releases. And so, I'm never going to get there. I think we might have lost KenFlo for a sec. I'm probably never going to get there. But I'm going to be honest. I just like coming down here and seeing this shit. So even if I don't play it,
it's like a vacation every time I go over to your house. So trust me.
But it was a real joy for me to have Mike come over last weekend and really take to Bard's Tale the way he did. He was really because I feel like it's one of those games where if you're not exposed to that kind of thing, you're good. We can still hear you. If you're not exposed to that sort of thing, you would be like, oh, what is this? I don't want to play this. But Mike, you were all over that.
I'm not super familiar with all of those, like the gold box AD&D games, but I played enough of them to know what I was getting into with Bard's Tale. I had really fun with that.
Yeah, well, you started Bard's Tale 1, which made me happy too. We both did. So if you're still listening, Uncle Don, we're both playing through Bard's Tale 1 on our. I'm doing it on Xbox Game Pass. Mike's doing it on Steam. But yeah, I think that was a fun little show.
This has been super fun. Kenny's headphones died. He went to charge them up real quick. Hopefully he'll be back momentarily.
Yeah,
it was about time to wind down anyway.
Yeah, we're about done. Let's talk quickly about what's coming up. What do we got coming up? We got Michael Branch next
Humans
week.
of the Multiverse, Michael Branch. We've got
former
some
Navy SEAL.
Editing ourselves to do before the next Humans of the Multiverse comes out. But we promise it'll be a steady stream. We've been making new friends in the space, folks that are into history, ancient history like us, such as Enigma Seeker, that's Peter.
And thanks for shouting out in the chat, Enigma Seeker.
Yep, and just all sorts of other stuff coming up. That's about the main thing. We'll hit it again next week with science articles, space news, solar weather, all the above.
Yeah, I think we got. Sorry, I think Tyrone from Rebirth of the Word is coming on next week as well, possibly to talk about orbs and whatnot, as well as he's going to be next month's Book of the Month. So it'd be a good time to have him on.
Hey, y'all, sorry about that.
That's okay. We're just winding down anyway.
All good.
Hey, do you remember that Adam Sandler? Me too. And I was going to say, if you guys get the reference at all, but if you remember that that bit on that Adam Sandler comedy album, The Longest P. Oh my God!
I do. That was you just now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh my God! All I could think about was Adam.
I didn't
Sandler.
drink a lot of water this afternoon just so that wouldn't happen, because that's happened to me in the middle of this kind of stuff. But yeah, so we got a new episode of Humans of the Multiverse dropping tomorrow with former Navy SEAL, really inspirational story. We've got like 3 or 4 more in the bank, including Peter from Enigma Seekers, who was in the chat earlier. He gave us a really interesting presentation on Egypt and Eden and Atlantis, which was very compelling. And we've got the OG himself, Laird Scranton. If you don't know who he is, we're pretty pumped about that interview coming out. Featured on Ancient Aliens, on documentaries with Graham Hancock. He's an expert in the Dogon tribe in Africa, who had these crazy cosmological knowledge that they shouldn't have had, and it's really mind-blowing interview. Support us on Buy Me a Coffee. Buy Ricardo's book in the link that Brittany provided. Support us on via.com and enter our link or through the link that was provided, as well as subscribe to Kenny's YouTube channel.
Baseball cards before work.
Yeah, channel BCBW. Check out his Whatnot, which we've also linked, and we'll also put in the link below. Brittany's also reposting all that stuff now, which is great. Yep.
Check out the show with KenFlo. All are welcome. Great deals and steals.
Yep. And subscribe to our channel. Like and subscribe. Mike and Dave's Multiverse.
The Multiverse.
We're planning to go to Contact in the Desert as well as the Cosmic Summit this year. So if you want to meet us in person, learn about wild stuff and history, check out either of those events. We have links to those in the description.
Yeah, there are links to those in the description as well, and it's going to be a blast. If you do go, send us a DM on X or Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and we'll meet up and hang out. I don't know. Do you want to do Bard's Tale play out, or do you want to do?
Let's play the song. Yeah, I should have started it 2 minutes ago.
Please.
Yeah.
I'll turn the volume down low so we can maybe talk a little bit.
And I just wanted to shout out Uncle Don again, because he's the inspiration for both of our collections, really, and our obsessions with these kind of things. Uncle Don has that exact poster, I believe, in his own office of Gandalf. And he's the one who got me into reading The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that stuff. And you know, I got to tell you, at 5 years old, this game and this song set my imagination absolutely on fire. And I'd be sitting there like imagining this whole thing as like a real thing, and I still get this song playing through my head today.
We were on that quest, buddy.
Exactly. And I couldn't remember all the names of everyone from our party when I started our Bard's Tale 1, but I did name our sorcerer Spell, because I remember we were naming people, and I was 5, right? And you guys were like, Dave, what do you want to name him? And he's a sorcerer, so I was like, I don't know, Spell. And you all kind of looked at me and were going to be like, no, that's stupid. But then you're like, no, he's 5. Okay, Spell it is. And it turned out pretty good. And I do have Hawk on there, who's the paladin.
This guy.
Yes, this guy. Yeah. I do have Hawk, the paladin.
Alder the Hobbit.
Alder, no, I named him Loose Change. Didn't we have a Loose Change as a thief?
There was a Loose Change.
Thief or the rogue.
Yeah, he was my rogue right now. His name is Loose Change, though. I named my others my wizard Mordrath, but actually Mordrath was the name of my cleric in my first ever D&D adventure, also with Uncle Don when I was 5 or 6 years old. So they must have been just I don't know that I actually understood what was going on. Maybe I did. I felt like I did, but I thought maybe my brothers and my uncle were like kind of helping me do all that stuff but maybe I don't know, maybe I was that smart. I don't know. I just feel like I didn't understand like the rolling and stuff probably. I was literally 5, but anyway,
Dave,
Uncle Don, you're the man.
I still don't understand. It's math. Someone's always got to help me out.
Right. And actually, you know what? I do want to organize something between the 3 of us. Mike created a Final Fantasy 1, I believe, D&D campaign, D&D campaign, an episodic campaign.
I've written out 2 one-shots. I actually ran one of them. I've only ever run one session, but I ran one of my one-shots, and I wrote another one, and then I have an idea for a whole campaign based on that.
Yeah, so Kenny and I would be the perfect people to play through that with you. If you ever want to come up and do that, just make sure we got some notice and we know that Kenny's off or whatever. Maybe on summer vacation when you're off school.
Let's make it a
game. Yeah,
let's do it. We'll have a whole retro gaming weekend in the man cave. So. And
thanks to everybody who tuned in and commented. Thanks to all our friends and family. We appreciate your support. We have fun doing this, so we hope you have fun listening to us.
and we'll get back into gear with our ancient history stuff next week with Tyrone. But please expect more video game stuff from us in the future, because this is part of Mike and Dave's Multiverse as well. So thank you so much, humans. Have a wonderful evening. Much love and joy. Check out Ari at home. Dropping beats on New York City streets. And if you have any, if you have any joy you want to spread, send it to me and I'll share it on the show.